beyond the pale. He will shake his head and give this answer without fail. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, he says he tells no lies and that he never jokes. Confronting with the truth, he'll say it's all a hoax. A modern Don Quixote, he hates the windmills, claiming to protect the birds and whales he says they kill. But don't believe that story, it's really just a shill. He just did not want to see them wild golfing on Scottish hills. A hoax, he said it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, changing a storm path with black marker strokes. Confronted with the truth, they say it's all a hoax. Casting mail-in ballots is something that he's done. Now he wants to ban them for each and every one. He claims it's for integrity in each election, but he won't believe the results unless it's him that's won. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, they'll fool you with distractions like real sugar in Cokes. Confronting with the truth, he'll say it's all a hoax. He promised to release all the Epstein files that caused all the MAGA base to react with smiles. But how long has he put it off? It sure has been a while, and now he's calling this a hoax, protecting pedophiles. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, he'll keep on gaslighting up until he croaks. Confronted with the truth, he'll say it's all a hoax.
Trump piled debt, trillions tall. Promised Mexico would fund that wall. Praised dictators, said they're strong. Had Joe done it, they'd say he's wrong. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would flip. Had Biden done it, they'd scream foul play. But Trump did it, so it must be okay. Go through crises, storms and war. Called soldiers losers who died in war. Hire his kids to run DC. If it was Hunter, they'd scream treachery. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, Fox News would say I'd evade. But Trump did it, so it must be okay. Love Kim Jong-un, he wrote love letters that take the guns first, lose those rights forever. Signed you spending bills with glee. Had Joe done that, it'd be tyranny. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they shout out today. But Trump did it, so it must be okay. Kept secret files, countless untold. Said Putin's word was good as gold. Invited the Taliban to come to U.S. soil. If Joe had done that, they'd all recoil. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they'd want him to pay. But Trump did it, so it must be okay. Double standards, loud and clear. Rules for Trump, but not for peers. What they call treason, if Joe's the name, is patriotism when Donald's to blame. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they'd shout no
This just in. A sudden spike in logic levels across the city. Citizens report seeing a man with glasses and a podcast mic. We go now live to Liberal Dan.
Yo, who you gonna call when Nazi writing's on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, cause you know we got a plan. The right wing talking shit, but he ain't about to quit. He'll take his proton pack and zap your logic cause it's whack. So who you gonna call when the writing's on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, and the rhetoric will fall.
It's being reported that Liberal Dan is setting up what appears to be some sort of straw man containment field.
He's calling out your lies with his mic, he'll vaporize. Cross the streams in your dreams, bitch, you know that he's too wise. You're like Slimer talking crap, but you walked into his trap. Yo, it's more than entertainment, it's misinformation contained. So who you gonna call when the writing's on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, and the rhetoric will fall. The Statue Liberty, the writing you can't see. So bring the huddled masses, it's a war of the classes. While Trump may think he's Vigo, Dan can cut through that ego. He's got the facts to prove him wrong, got that logic like Egon. Your logic is a ghost, cause you know this chick is toast. When you follow MTG, it's conspiracy, you'll see. There's no need to taser, he's got wit like Occam's razor. Liberal Dan cuts those lies with his Jewish-based laser.
It's unbelievable. Liberal Dan just used the literal dog whistle to lure a large group of internet trolls into what is being called a self-collapsing rhetoric singularity. In all my years of reporting, I've never seen anything like this.
So don't call to be a heckler, you ain't no Judge Rexler. He'll bust you like Scolary, cause your logic's looking hairy. Right-wing callers think they're cool, but they sounding just like Zool. You the dog, he the man, and yo, his name is Liberal Dan. So who you gonna call when the writing's on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, and the rhetoric will fall. Liberal Dan, Liberal Dan, Liberal Dan.
Self-proclaimed king, a groper in chief, stealing our country, a crooked orange thief. Faux patriots who are poorly educated, wearing red hats and also unvaccinated. Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite. Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. A failing media that's barely treading water. They're too inept to fight this new world order. Corporate pigs are at the trough, hear the squeals. The swine won't bite the hands that feeds them meals. But Liberal Dan will see us flow. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite. Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. A leftist voice on air, exposing MAGA treason, breaking through their lies with facts, logic, and reason. Unmasking hypocrisy, the truth will be our guide. Call out their lies, justice is on our side. Cause Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite. Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right.
This week's Hypocrite of the Week is Steve Scalise and other congressional Republicans. Scalise and other GOP hypocrites supposedly backed the blue, and they took part in a vigil during National Police Week. Of course, where was Steve Scalise and the other GOP clowns when Trump pardoned the domestic terrorists who attacked police on January 6th? The truth is, the only time that they back the blue is when the blue kills black people. Otherwise, they couldn't give a damn. To see who next week's Hypocrite of the Week will be, tune in live Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays at 8 p.m. Central here at liberaldanradio.com for more Talk from the Left. That's right. Dan, welcome to Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left. That's right. This is your host, Dan Zimmerman, coming at you live from New Orleans, Louisiana. To join us in the conversations, we're live 3 places now. Again, we're either live on YouTube, liberaldanradio.com, or Twitch, twitch.liberaldanradio.com, or Liberal Dan Radio on TikTok. And we've now done the requisite number of live streams so that now what people are seeing on TikTok is exactly what people are seeing on YouTube and on Twitch. So I don't have to do the shenanigans with my having weird camera angles and not showing the mess that's behind me or whatever, and now everybody just sees the same screen as everybody else. So I'm consistent across brands, which is what you're supposed to do, right? Unfortunately, I don't think the people on TikTok actually heard the audio from that stuff because I hit the wrong button in that studio. So, as old Trumpy boy says,
it is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. A little delayed there. I guess the dementia is not just setting in for Donald Trump there, but the dementia is also setting up for, on his audio as well. But anyway, thank you everybody for joining here on Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left. That's right. On the Wednesday show, which is the least attended show of the week. It is what it is. Again, who knows? Church at Every Game is over here on Twitch, including Fansan and Orvilleby. Thank you all for joining over there. And we also have a bunch of people over on YouTube. We've got Steve from across the pond.
If it's no Scottish, it's crap.
We got Jeff from just north of Uranus. Jackie, Big Hook from Canada. Who else? Suzanne, who still unfortunately can't seem to get gifted memberships. Jan, good to see you. Molly from close by, I think, right? You said you're from Baton Rouge, Molly. Good to see you. Thank you for joining. Appreciate you. Who else am I missing from the YouTube chat? Janelle, good to see you too. Yes, we are living in the Twilight Zone. Yes, we are, Big Hook, Big Hook. So imagine if Biden said, I don't care about people's finances. I don't think about it much. I wonder what would have happened if he would have said that.
Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would flip. Had Biden done it, the screen fell play. But Trump did it, so it must be okay.
I feel like a church at every game is like, dance, monkey, dance, every time he posts up Imagine If post. But, half the time I'm already ready to do it right as he's doing it anyway. So it is what it is, as old Trumpy boy says yet again. So lots of stuff to talk about today. Let's see, do I want to give people time before I start doing the, there's only 13 viewers. Man, I would hate for everybody to miss out on what's going on here, on what I have intended. Actually, I even forgot to do one thing. I have to download something real quick from my Facebook page, an image from the Facebook page that I had taken, and I need to add that to the screen so that everybody can see it, so that I can actually do what I want to do. With the picture behind, because it's not going to make as much sense as it would without this image. So let me go ahead and find that real quick, because, I was preparing stuff for the show and preparing settings, and I looked at the clock, it was like 7:50. Oh crap. I did not do what I needed to do yet. So let's go ahead and save that. And then we need to add an image over here. It's a new image, and it's going to be that. And then we are going to browse, and we're going to see, that's a very big picture. So we're going to make it smaller so everybody can see my giant plush Grogu toy. Let's see, it's right behind me. There you go. So there's all Grogu behind me. Or maybe I can make it a little smaller so I'm not blocking the other thing too. So there you go. There's Grogu behind me. And there's this funny looking blanket that we got that it kind of looks like it's almost like chicken tenders, like all wrapped up as the blanket or whatever. It's one of my cat's favorite blankets. You know, she loves using it. I think somebody subscribed. Thank you. Appreciate you. Not seeing who. Let's see. MVAO, Mavaoni. I don't know how to pronounce that. I apologize. Lord, I apologize for not being able to pronounce your name properly. So, anyway, again, as Trump says,
It is what it is.
thank you, Donald. Imagine if Biden had started early and other people came later and missed out. Well, if other people don't see it, maybe it was Trump not seeing it because it doesn't exist because he lacks object permanence.
If Trump can't see it, you must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. Object permanence, a milestone missed. If Trump can't see it, he must not exist.
Hey, Steve's, why you gotta play the song so loud? Because we want to? Oh, Billy Piper. Okay, there you go. I was like, I thought you were asking me. Imagine if Biden pivoted to the object permanent song.
Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would flip. Had Biden done it, the screen fell play. But Trump did it, so it must be okay.
Anyway, so I'm going to be recording this part anyway, and I'm going to be uploading it as its own separate thing, because hopefully it'll go, I'm hoping that at least the nerds, the Star Wars nerds like myself, because I'm a Star Wars nerd, obviously, you will see how much of a Star Wars nerd I am in a few minutes, or in less than a few minutes. Trust me. So I will be recording this, and I'll be uploading it later as well. It's not going to be a bit that I'm going to do, whatchamacallit, and have a clip up or whatever, because it'll be too much. I don't know. I don't think Opus Clip will do that properly anyway. Let's see, Jan Morgan, privacy advocates use VPN. Google hates them because they want all your personal data. Yeah, that's true. Let's see, Star Wars is over, bro. Wait, do you think Star Wars is too woke? Star Wars, I mean, like the people who like Star Trek is too woke. Star Trek is a socialist post a scarcity utopian society for the most part. I mean, yeah, they have the Borg and that's not utopian, but still. Yeah. I mean, Star Wars was literally talking about, you know, criticizing like America during Vietnam. Like we were the empire. Like the United States was the empire. That's what Star Wars was trying to say, but apparently some people can't grasp that simple concept. So, need to make sure that my vocal cords are nice and moist. I'm sorry for anybody who doesn't like the word moist, but I got to make sure that I'm well hydrated for this bit that I'm about to do right now. Because there's going to be a lot. So, as you can see right here, this is a very large, plushy Grogu with a blanket on top of his head, and the hair kind of makes me think like it's like Trump Grogu. I mean, you shouldn't disrespect Grogu like that and saying he's Trump, but you know, what if MAGA stood for Mando and Grogu again? You know, what if that's what MAGA stood for? I mean, I probably support it much more, but I think he looks a little Trumpian with that, you know, with that little blanket hairstyle. Which made me think, and if you're friends with me on Facebook, some people are friends with me on Facebook. If you're friends with me on Facebook, you've seen the first part of this, but I went a little overboard. So, here we go. Donald Trump in the Star Wars universe. First starting off as kind of like a Jedi, whatever, a Force user, whatever, but still, we're going to go on with it. Donald Trump in the Star Wars universe. I have the best force powers like nobody's ever seen, but the fake news media only wants to talk about Sleepy Yoda and old Obi-Wan. I was never on Palpatine's island, and his list is a Jedi hoax. And if the Tusken Raiders don't stop blocking entry to Mos Eisley, I'm gonna bomb them and take their water. And we're gonna build a big, beautiful battle station. Some call it Project Stardust, others call it the Death Star, but it'll be paid for by private contributions and not Republican taxes. Jabba the Hutt, a good friend of mine, a great businessman, just offered 100 million credits to help build the big, beautiful battle station. And the only way that we can have peace in the Empire, and I like to call it an empire and not a republic because it's stronger, mopey Mon Mothma and boring Bail Organa would weaken us. I've instructed Governor Tarkin to rename us the Galactic Empire. It has a nice ring to it, and we're going to call our warfighters stormtroopers. And I know how to make peace. I've ended so many wars with the Trade Federation and the Separatists. I'm a man of peace, and we can't have peace without our big, beautiful battle station, otherwise the Death Star. The open border policy of the Jedi have allowed millions of credits worth of spice to flow from Kessel. Governor Tarkin has taken out many freighters. Some even are the YT-1300, like the one that anti-fascist terrorist Han Solo flies. We've reduced spice usage in the Empire by 500%. Can you believe it? 500%. Sleepy Yoda would have never done that, but my administration did. Another Jedi hoax by Sleepy Yoda is green power. Can you imagine that he's green and he wants green power? The solar ionization reactors are killing the Purgle, or as I like to call them, space whales. And many don't know that solar ionization reactors cause cancer. And those Wookiees, who are sending their worst, by the way, especially that Chewbacca, they use bioenergy from the horseshoe trees of now how do you say that? Kashyyyk. If you knock down the trees, you kill the birds, and nobody's a bigger friend of the birds than me. Under the Trump Empire, we will dig, baby, dig, and get beautiful kyber crystals, and lying Lando tried to steal the coaxium from the Empire. Kyber crystals and coaxium will make sure that they can power a big, beautiful battle station and our new fleet of Star Destroyers, which Governor Tarkin assures me that we're calling it the Trump class. Finally, I have the ISB, the Imperial Security Bureau, which I nickname ICE. And Governor Tarkin, some call him Grand Moff Tarkin, some call him Governor. He has a lot of titles. He will be working with Director Yularen to ensure that only citizens of the Galactic Empire can vote. Sleepy Yoda would allow Jawas to vote and would allow voting via the HoloNet, which is fraud. All votes via the HoloNet are fraud. And I've instructed the regional governors to redraw sector lines to make sure the Senate will support these policies. And because I'll be on Coruscant and not on Mar-a-Lago for these vital elections, I'll be casting my vote over the HoloNet. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So, there you go. That's a little bit of what I worked on today. Oh, that was you, Jen, who dialed me twice or a couple times on the phone. There you go. I was wondering who called me on there. How many wars have you ended? Wait, I need to include this as part of it. A Choice of Every Game asks, how many wars have you ended that involve the colonies of penguins? Oh, the colonies of their porgs where Lion Luke Skywalker was there with the porgs, and the porgs pay lots of tariffs. Dave don't pay any more tariffs, and so many people pay tariffs, but the porgs are paying the tariffs, and we have to charge them a tariff because we need the funds for the Empire to build the big, beautiful battle station, even though it's private donations that are funding it. Anyway. That one was just off the cuff. So, praise be, the Empire protects. I mean, I'm not surprised that you were a fan of the Empire, Edgewalker. Oh my God, you stayed in character longer than any SNL character ever has. Especially when they're about to crack up, right? So let's see. Bruce Lee's, I just learned more about Star Wars than ever. But Dan, do you do the Kessel Run in under 12 parsecs? I need to include that one too. Other questions from the chat from Big Hook. He says, can you do the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs? I can do the Kessel Run in 11. Nobody does the Kessel Run faster than me. Even horrible Han Solo, he says it's 12 parsecs. I do it in 11. I do it 100 times faster, 200 times quicker than old Han Solo. He can't do it as fast as I can, believe you me. And if you want to know how fast I am, just ask Stormy Daniels. I'm going to have to start recording every single response that I do. Imagine if Biden said he could do it quicker than you.
Had Biden done it, MAGA would
Now, if you want to really nerd out on the whole Kessel Run thing with the 12 parsecs, people were critical of the idea that you're doing it quickly by judging it by distance, because parsec is a distance and not a time. So how does doing it in 12 parsecs make you doing it faster, make you do it faster than anybody else? How is that? How is that possible? Well, if you want a little more Star Wars lore, the Kessel Run is by the Maw, which is by a large collection of black holes. And so the closer that you can get to the black holes, the faster you can go. And in order to get past those black holes more quickly, you have to travel more closely to the black holes. But if you're not going fast enough, the black holes will suck you in. So if you can do the Kessel Run in a smaller amount of parsecs, this means your ship is fast enough to not be sucked into the black holes. So that's why saying he can do it in 12 parsecs means he can do it faster than most other people. This is your moment of nerd here on Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right. So, anyway. Let's see. You are the only one who gets my name right. It seems rather obvious how it's spelled, but, you know. That's why I'm the best show not you're listening to, but it's the best show that you're not listening to or everybody else is not listening to, because, you know, I get these things. Other people don't, right? So, let's see. Well, any other comments? Mr. Spock goes, "It's a trap!" It's very ironic that Mr. Spock is the one saying it's a trap. I don't trust the Vulcans. The Vulcans don't like me. They're too logical to like me. Smart people, including Vulcans, don't like me. Ogre from Revenge of the Nerds passed. Oh God, I didn't even realize that. Was that today or just recently? What's up, CRL3232? Thank you for joining. Let's see. Anybody else have anything else to say about what I did, all my Star Wars thing? Who made Grandma moist of the Nutty Professor? Mike Wallace. Jeff Curry. Mike Wallace made Grandma Clump moist. That's the answer. Ooh, Hercules. Anyway, so doing Don old voice must hurt your vocal cords. That's why I have this cup, and that's why I have this cup, all with water. And I made sure to take a nice big swig of the cup before I started doing it, because it can hurt my voice, it can hurt my vocal cords, but you know, it is what it is. Of course, you know, I also have the video that most of you have seen already of me doing What a Wonderful World as Louis Armstrong. Maybe as part of Liberal Dan Radio After Dark, because it won't be copyright stricken, because it'll be on the Discord. Maybe because of that, I'll give you all the full sample of What a Wonderful World of me doing my Louis Armstrong imitation. Or you could just go to nerdydan.com on YouTube, youtube.com/nerdydan, DOTCOM. And you can check it out there as well, where I won, this one I won second place. The best version of it is when I won second place. There's another version where I won first place, but I think my second place version was better. So, you know, let's see. Star Trek is over too, said Edgewalker. Every single major entertainment franchise has been ruined except for Warhammer 40K, and they are trying. Get with the times, dude. Anyway, so... what else? Neil deGrasse Tyson actually debunked the parsec line. Well, in reality, I think in Neil deGrasse Tyson debunked the parsec line because he was talking about the parsec as being a unit of distance, not time. But the Extended Universe books, and as now they're called the Legacy books, they actually went into why the Kessel Run parsec thing is short. But the escape velocity necessary for a black hole, another Liberal Dan After Dark. But yeah, but in order to escape a black hole, like if you have the event horizon, like right outside the event horizon is the photon orbit. And the photon orbit is basically where photons just have enough speed to maintain an orbit around the black hole, but they don't have enough speed to escape the black hole. And that's right above the event horizon. Once you're in the event horizon, you can't escape, because you would have to be going faster than the speed of light, and in reality, travel faster than the speed of light is not possible. as long as you're, not using some Einsteinian thing like the warp field or whatever, that warp space, so you're not actually moving locally faster than light or whatever. I read a lot of Star Trek nerd books too. So if you're outside of that photon orbit, you could actually, you can actually escape by going a little bit slower than the speed of light. So the closer you are to there, the faster you have to go. And so if you travel, as you're traveling closer, you need to be able to travel faster to not be sucked into the black hole. Anyway, is this enough nerdy stuff, enough nerdy science talk for today? I don't know. I could go on forever. I once cleared out a chat room once that was on some website that is no longer in existence, but I cleared out a chat room trying to discuss why gravitons can't be the source of gravity. We're not going to do that tonight. Maybe in Liberal Dan After Dark, if people want to discuss science nerd stuff, we're more than happy to do so. But anyway, let's see. Black holes, yeah, Nerdy Dan After Dark, and maybe that's not the only type of holes we'll be talking about on Liberal Dan After Dark.
Oh my.
Anyway. So again, my birthday is next Wednesday, so it'll be my birthday next Wednesday, so please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you're not subscribed already to the YouTube channel, make sure to go over there and subscribe over on YouTube. I actually had a decent little bump in subs this week. I still haven't gotten to 1,700. I'd love to make 2,000 by my birthday, but I can only do that with y'all's help. So, I've never seen. What? Atrocious. This is why you're atrocious at every game, because you're not nerdy enough, because you've never seen Star Wars. What? All I know is the Darth Vader voice. Luke, I am your father. Anyway, so you are banned from Star Trek conventions. Why Star Trek? Why? Why would I be banned from Star Trek conventions? I have been to some. So, anyway. You don't know the power of the dark side. Obi-Wan didn't tell you the truth about your father. He told me enough. He told me you killed him. No, I am your father. So, and that's a common misconception. It's a common misconception that that Darth Vader says, Luke, I am your father. No, he does not. He says, no, I am your father. So, also, imagine if Biden did it wrong. I would guarantee you that Biden is more likely to have seen Star Wars than Trump. And I will hope that Donald Trump hasn't seen Star Wars, simply because the fact it would give him ideas. Like, he calls himself king here. He would watch Star Wars and be like, I should name myself Emperor, not king. Emperor is much more powerful, much more strong. It's much stronger than Sleepy Joe Biden and Sleepy Yoda. Anyway. So yes, the Kessel Run has a lot of obstacles. Using distance proved that the Falcon's navigation system was more advanced and could create faster trips by maximizing the pathway. Otherwise, flies close to a star and bounces close to supernova, and you'll end your trip. That'll end your trip real quick. Exactly. Never quote me the odds. Of course, maybe Han Solo should be Hypocrite of the Week. Spoiler alert. Because after Luke destroys the Death Star in A New Hope, Han Solo goes, "Great shot, kid. That was 1 in a million." So he can quote other people the odds, but he's not allowed to have the odds quoted to him. This week's Hypocrite of the Week is Han Solo for saying you shouldn't tell him the odds, but you do tell him the odds. Anyway, pathway efficiency, yes. These whiny Skywalkers. I wanted to go to Tashi Station to get some power converters. Yeah, and that's why people complaining about Hayden Christensen playing Anakin Skywalker. I never understood the criticism of it, because they said he's too whiny. Like, especially the Anakin Skywalker, and obviously with Hayden Christensen in the second and third episodes. Because who else? Why would you not have the person who's the father of the guy who wanted to go to Tashi Station to pick up some power converters? Why wouldn't that guy also be whiny? And why wouldn't an impatient, whiny guy be the person who is most susceptible to fall into the dark side? So the people who were criticizing, and for a while I was the only one that made the argument, and then I heard Kevin Smith make that argument. I was like, there you go. I will more than happy cede Kevin Smith to be the voice on this important topic, right? And fans treated him so toxic for a while, but then it was good to see that when like the Obi-Wan series came around, like we're talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi, like between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, with that series you had his flashbacks to Anakin or whatever with the training part, and people pretty much embraced Hayden Christensen again. May the Schwartz be with you, says CRL3232. I cannot wait for the next Spaceballs movie. It's far too long. It's been far too long since we've had a Spaceballs movie. Make Spaceballs great again, right? Or would it be not make Druidia, make Spaceball 1 great again? I guess it's Planet Spaceball, so make Planet Spaceball great again. So it'd be MAPSA, right? So let's see. The bit Q-Stark was in that cut, a bar by the power station. Wait, even Dan's screen refused to show my comment? What comment did I refuse to see? Oh, did I miss? I don't know. Let's see. They say there's more dark matter than light, supposedly, and apparently, if the amount of dark matter in the galaxy will apparently determine if we end up in a big crunch or a big whatever it's called. The big crunch would be everything just coming back in on itself after the Big Bang, and then I forget what they call it if there's not enough matter and it just continues to spread out till the temperature of everything gets so low that everything freezes. Yes, entropy, but I don't think it's called the big entropy. I think it's called something else. So oh, Q-Stark Wedge Scorpion. Okay, that's what you're trying to say. I don't know, but I don't know. I guess I missed Steve's comment in the chat. I don't know. Did you say the black hole? Is that black hole tasting of chocolate? Is that the comment you were missing out on?
Oh my!
Is that the comment that you meant to make? Anyway, wow, I have 143 likes over on TikTok. How'd that happen? I have more likes on TikTok than I do on YouTube. Of course, on TikTok, you can constantly like things without or multiple times, I guess. So anyway, going Nova liberal Dan. Especially if it's locks. I love Nova locks. That's always good, right? So anyway, so I did start the show with the Hypocrite of the Week early, just to kind of get that out of the way and to play it without it having to be with the Opus clips. And again, I'm probably not going to clip anything that was up to like this point in time. So we're already 39 minutes into the show, so I'm not going to start. I'm going to have to start the Opus clip right at 39 minutes to be able to clip the shows without even getting the rest of the stuff. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know if it's the big expansion. I think there's another word for it. I could always use the internet and find out, right? Either big crunch or big what? Big freeze. That's it. Big crunch or the big freeze is what it's called. See, the hypothetical end state where the universe runs out of usable energy, reaching a maximum entropy, is called heat death. Right, but it's also called the big freeze. So, but according to AI, at least, the universe will likely end in a big freeze, not the big crunch. Of course, again, it just matters on how much dark matter there is in the universe, I should say. So, so now I'm going to have to go to 40 minutes because we're still talking about this stuff. It cut you again? Wow. Is it YouTube cutting you, or is it me, or is it whatever? YouTube hates the spectrum. Jealous AF. Probably, I guess. Anywho. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the other stuff that we were going to talk about on this week's episode of Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left. That's right. Again, the Wednesday shows are probably going to be the shortest shows, especially once June hits, because when June hits, we will absolutely be doing Liberal Dan After Dark. In June, I assuming nothing else shitty happens in my life. I guess let's talk about one more shitty thing that happened today. In fact, I got a knock on the door Postman was sending us a certified letter. I got a certified letter from the city of New Orleans, and they were complaining that my dogs were barking too much. I'm like, I mean, they really don't stay outside that long to bark that long, and when they do bark initially, I do, as much as possible, bring them in, and I know there are other dogs in the neighborhood that bark more than ours, so now I'm going to call into it's the Louisiana, or the New Orleans Department of Health that handles such things, I guess. So I have a call into them. I'll try to call in tomorrow, and because I want to see what more. I know they're not going to give me who. They're not going to tell me who was the Karen and reported me for, and not my neighbor, because my neighbor didn't get one, and my neighbor has a dog that barks. So I don't know if it's, you know, who. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm sure they won't tell me who. But what I would like to know is times, like what time, what day, what hours. Because if they can't give me that, it'll be like, well, if you can't tell me the hours and the days that have been done, how are you knowing it's me? How can you know it's me if you can't give me the time? So I'm like, not OCD enough, but I am absolutely a stickler to make the point. I am stubborn enough where I will absolutely put a chart or put a clipboard right next to the back door. And whenever we let a dog out, we will put the date and we will put the times, and then we will put the times that they were brought back in. And I will absolutely. So when somebody says, here's when the dog was out, I was like, oh, according to my log, my dog was never out at that time. Go fuck yourselves. So anyway, now I had to fast forward to 42 minutes and 36 seconds. Anyway, I miss anything else in the chat? I think I did miss some stuff over in the whatever. So do you have any comments on the falling liberal voter support and revealed preference shown in migration patterns inside America and across the West? I have no idea what you're trying to claim. I mean, it's been you've had many of the Trump endorsed candidates in many of these elections, in these general elections that are go on, in the special elections, not the primaries, but the general elections. Many of the Trump endorsed candidates have lost or have underperformed Trump's numbers. So it seems to me that in those areas that the left is actually doing better than they were doing in 2024. So I don't know what you're talking about. So why would you not train your dog to not bark all the time ASCP when you get it? Yeah, dogs, your dog bite? No, Crunch, that's not my dog. Exactly. Bro, your dog should not bark unless told to do so. Yeah, okay. Well, it is what it is, right? Thank you, Ali Osher, for the 14 bits. Appreciate you. Thank you for joining the show. Let's talk about Tennessee. On May 7th, so 6 days ago, Tennessee Governor Bill Lee, Billy, really? If your name was William Lee, would you really go by Bill Lee? Because then people just call you Billy, or they might call you Billy Lee. Like, that's kind of weird, right? Anyway, so signed into law, HB 754, SB 676 requires healthcare providers and insurance companies to submit detailed data regarding transgender patients and gender-affirming care to the state. Not for kids, mind you, for everybody. Because they initially started off with, oh, we need to protect the kids, even though nobody who is a child is getting surgeries done on their bottom parts, I guess. Nobody's having that done without it actually being like a medical necessity, like, if there was injury or trauma there. It's not happening. Every clinic that you go to, if you go to their sites, you will see that every clinic, if somebody's going to get bottom surgery, they have to, be on hormones for a year, and then you can't start hormones till you're 18. So if you can't start hormones till you're 18, so none of these places are going to give you bottom surgery until at least you're 19. So all of this stuff is just just more attempts by the extreme right to vilify and villainize the trans folks and make them into the other, so that, the Trump supporters could ignore the fact that, the economy is going in the fucking toilet, right? So, the aspects of this law, May 2026, Public reporting. The Tennessee Department of Health is required to publish the reported data in an annual publicly available report. Data is collected. There's certain types of data that are collected. Age and sex of the patient. And I'm guessing it's on the birth certificate sex, not the actual gender that they are. The county of residence. Specific drugs, dosages, and administration methods for gender transition drugs. Types of surgical procedures, and medical providers' names, contact information, and specialties. And providers who fail to comply will face penalties and a potential license suspension of at least 6 months and a fine of up to $150,000. And I'm assuming that's per example of them failing to comply with the policies. Again, if an adult wants to do it, why is it the business of the state? And again, to me, if parents are determining, gender-affirming care, and gender-affirming care doesn't always mean surgeries, because you don't need to transition you shouldn't need to transition to be treated as the gender that you are instead of the gender that people assumed you were at birth. And the law also requires that insurers cover gender, cover gender transition care, gender-affirming care. They also have to cover detransition care. So, I mean, the amount of people that detransition, I think it's less than 1% of the total people who transition. But I have no problem if somebody legitimately decides that they want to change their mind on transitioning. I have no problem with having providers also cover that if they're covering the one and covering the other. But the issue with there may very well be that they're only put that in the law to make it less likely that insurers are going to cover transition care because now they're going to have to cover something else. And these asshole insurance companies are going to want to, restrict what to do because insurance companies make decisions not based off of, patient need, but on shareholder need, as we've seen and we've talked about already here on Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right. And there's another site from southernequality.org, understanding Tennessee's bills. Let's see, amendments to the bill. Advocates were able to amend the bill so patients' county of residence and medical providers' personal information are no longer required to be publicly published, but the bill remains a harmful violation of privacy. How does it increase state surveillance? The bill requires that gender-affirming care patients' age, sex assigned at birth, as I said, diagnosis, aka if it's gender dysphoria. Again, you're not required to have gender dysphoria if you're trans. You can have simply gender euphoria by showing yourself as the gender that you feel you are. You might not be depressed about, presenting one way, but you might feel euphoric by presenting a different way. And Evie Winters, a guest we've had several times on the show and who we're going to get back sometime, hopefully this year, has discussed that in depth on our show. If you look up Evie Winters on my channel, you'll see EVEYWINTERS. If you look her up, you will see that I think at least one of the episodes, if not both of the episodes, that got uploaded. Patients' names will not be published, but information that will be published is not only completely unnecessary for the public to know, and it could potentially be used to identify individuals. Non-compliance, we've discussed non-compliance. Let's see. So no, it doesn't require the names, but again, it needs age, sex assigned at birth, diagnosis, date on which the patient received gender-affirming care. I guess it should say dates because there's multiple, you can go in for multiple surgeries, I guess. Top surgery, bottom surgery, facial reconstruction, facial feminization or whatever, whatever it is that you feel that you need to do to make yourself feel whole can be done in several surgeries. How does it limit gender-affirming care? While the requirement that gender-affirming care providers' name, contact information was removed from the bill, providers are still required to report patient information. Government surveillance could dissuade providers from continuing to offer gender-affirming care. Additionally, the stipulation that non-compliance will have license suspension and a fine of up to $150,000 could also dissuade providers from continuing to offer the care because of increased liability associated with providing care. And then the bill's requirement that some patient data be reported to the state may and be made public may dissuade trans folk in general from accessing gender-affirming care. And because what is detransition care? Detransition care includes medical and psychological support for individuals who have undergone gender-affirming care but are choosing to discontinue or reverse their treatments. Detransitioning is incredibly rare. According to the 2022 U.S. Trans Survey, less than 1% of trans folk return to living as their sex assigned at birth because gender transition was not for them. The majority of the people who return to living as their sex assigned at birth after after transitioning do so because of the challenge of being socially accepted as a trans person. So, my concern here when I first heard about this being in the mix was, how does this interact with HIPAA? Because, you know, conservatives love to talk about HIPAA when it came to the pandemic. Oh, you can't ask me of a vaccination status. That's HIPAA protected. Nope, you don't understand what HIPAA is. HIPAA is requirement on hospitals and medical providers that they can't share your protected patient information with people that you don't give them permission to share that information with. Now, there are exceptions in the law that do say as required by law, but there's caveats to that as well. The state of Tennessee is probably going to say, well, we're requiring it by law, but HIPAA goes a little bit beyond just that and has some additional protections, which I think this will cause reasonable judges to reject the law simply because of the fact that they will say that your law is going too far and HIPAA takes precedence. HIPAA does not prevent me from asking you what your vaccination status is. HIPAA does not prevent me from learning that, and even if I did learn it, HIPAA wouldn't prevent me from sharing it with anybody else. HIPAA also wouldn't, you know, affect masking or whatever. It has nothing to do with HIPAA. But, you know, Donald Trump did say that he loved the poorly educated after the 2016 Nevada primaries. Thank you, Suzanne, for the gift. Appreciate you. After the primaries, he absolutely did say that he loved the poorly educated in 2016 in Nevada. And, you know, these people continue to try and prove their worthiness of that love to this day. So I'm not surprised that the folks who, you know, who are mocking vaccinations and folks who are mocking masking and trying to say y'all don't have to do this because of HIPAA, I'm not surprised that they don't understand what HIPAA is. So again, what is HIPAA? HIPAA protects protected health information, PHI, which includes identifiable health data covered by entities like hospitals, clinics, insurers, and doctors. Includes diagnoses, treatment information, mental health conditions, identifying demographic information. Providers cannot simply publish or hand this information over publicly. Tennessee is likely relying on the loophole where disclosure is required by law. In practice, what this means is that a valid state law compels the reporting, and HIPAA may permit the provider to comply. This is why mandatory reporting systems exist. Such types of mandatory reporting systems include infectious disease reporting, COVID, and, you know, you're not reporting the name, but if you test positive for an infectious disease, it can be reported to the state so you can track and monitor who's getting sick and where the sicknesses and outbreaks are happening. Abuse, you know, there's mandatory reporting of child abuse. If you would suspect child abuse, there are people who are mandatory reporters, and those people have to report the alleged child abuse to make sure that it can be investigated. Gunshot wound reporting, because somebody's got, you know, shot by a gun. You want to, you know, possibly done by a crime. And then cancer registries. Tennessee would likely say, we pass a law requiring disclosure, therefore HIPAA allows disclosure. But again, it's not necessarily a perfect argument in and of itself. But here's the thing. HIPAA only permits the minimum necessary disclosure. The HIPAA has a minimum necessary rule that says disclosure should be limited to what is needed for the legal purpose. Critics argue that Tennessee's law may go far beyond that because it requires detailed diagnoses, requires mental health conditions, requires treatment timelines, and requires provider information. Now, of course, now I guess it doesn't any longer require provider information. ACLU specifically highlighted the mental health disclosure requirement as unusually invasive. The legal challenge would probably go something like, you know, even if some reporting is allowed, this law demands far more than that is necessary. So that becomes a HIPAA conflict point. Thank you, Chad, for sending a gift over on YouTube. Appreciate you. Got the GOAT trophy for 1,000 jewels. Thank you for giving me your jewels. Wait.
Oh my.
Anyway, public disclosure also is another tension point. HIPAA governs covered entities like hospitals and insurers, but once the data is handed over to the state itself may not be acting as if it's a HIPAA-protected entity. Now, I guess state-run Medicaid plans would be HIPAA covered, but any other state entities that are not in the general requirements of HIPAA are not going to be covered. So again, if I give permission from a hospital to share information with somebody else, and that somebody else doesn't have some other law requiring them keeping it quiet, guess what? They could very well then send that information to other people and tell the people the information. That's why you have to sign off on whether or not a hospital or a clinic or a doctor's office or whoever, that's why I have to give sign off that says we can share this information with people outside of this clinic, and it covers who you can share with, who you can't share it with, whatever. So providers, again, may legally disclose data to the state if compelled. The state may publish or distribute under state law. So there is a legal issue. Again, HIPAA protects the hospital, but it doesn't prevent what the hospital or what the government can do with that data obtained from the hospital. And people who oppose this law says it's basically defeating the spirit of HIPAA entirely. HIPAA generally preempts state laws, as I said the last time we discussed this, when they were discussing this potential reporting law. I basically said that HIPAA laws should be supreme and should preempt any other state laws, especially state laws that are less protective of privacy. But again, HIPAA allows state-mandated closures. HIPAA court can often ask whether the state law is contrary to HIPAA. Tennessee would probably say something like the disclosure is specifically authorized under HIPAA's required by law exception, and then the people arguing against the law would say the law undermines HIPAA's privacy purpose and exceeds what federal law intends. Again, that's where the challenge is going to be, and depending who you get as the judges and how the Supreme Court justices are feeling on any particular day will determine whether or not they actually side with the people who are the patients, or if they decide to side with the state. There are also mental health confidentiality laws that may collide too. Tennessee itself has a separate set of confidentiality protections for mental health records. So there's internal contradictions within the law. Tennessee historically treats mental health records as highly confidential, but this law requires disclosure of mental health diagnoses connected to gender care, and I don't know how it was written. Did it amend the previous law to say this law is amended to do X, Y, Z when it comes to mental health records pertaining to folks who are trans, or did it leave it blank and then leave this kind of limbo state, right? Challengers could argue that there is conflicts with federal and state law. So the arguments that could be made by people who are against this law is that the law exceeds the HIPAA's minimum necessary standard. The disclosure is effectively re-identifiable, basically, regardless of if you didn't include the name or the date of birth, that if you, put other pieces together, you may be able to figure out who the person is. And if that's the case, then, the confidentiality is blown. For some reason, TikTok is saying I'm not active, even though I am active. So who knows? So anyway, the disclosure, again, makes people identifiable. Publishing granular medical data defeats HIPAA's privacy purpose. The state is compelling disclosures broader than what federal law intends or allows. Mental health disclosure are unusually invasive. The strongest pro-law arguments may include, again, HIPAA allows disclosures that are required by law. States already maintain many health registries. The published data may be argued to be de-identified, and the states can regulate medical reporting within its borders. So a little bit of nuance is that you can't just say it's obviously illegal under HIPAA. Again, I never said that it was obviously illegal, but I questioned whether or not it would be legal under HIPAA, because to me, it seemed to be at least entering into a gray area. Legally and morally, it's just shitty. But, the real legal battle is probably less, does HIPAA forbid any disclosure, and more, did Tennessee go too far in scope, identifiability, and publication? So that's where this issue is going to be argued. And at this point, since it's passed and it's become a law, you're going to have to wait for people to challenge that law and challenge the reporting requirements. And of course, who's going to challenge that? Is it going to be the first doctor? Does the doctor have to get fined and or punished first before being able to sue? Because there are some ridiculous things about standing as to whether or not somebody can be shown to have standing or not. And how the Supreme Court applies standing arguments also seems to depend on the weather or what clothes or underwear or socks that the justices are wearing. I don't know. Whether or not, I guess, Alito's wearing a thong or whatever. Not that you want to think about that.
Oh my.
But it varies from case to case. Like on a completely unrelated case, like for some reason, the Supreme Court decided to allow the states to have standing to sue over the SAVE plan under Joe Biden with federal student loans, because Mohila which is a state-created agency that's a non-NGO, but it's still state-created, Mohila basically argued, or the state argued on behalf of Mohila, because Mohila didn't want any part of this lawsuit. The state had to compel Mohila to give them the information, and then the state used their creating of Mohila to be able to say, hey, we have a compelling interest here, because if for some reason, loans are discharged early, like the 10,000, 20,000, forgiveness that Biden was trying to do, and anything else that Biden was trying to do with it. If for some reason that would make the loan go away, then Mohila would stop collecting money because they no longer got the fees to service it. So what the state of Missouri and other states along with them basically argued is that they have the right to your tax dollars. They argued that they have the right, that they should be able to get as much of your tax dollars as possible because they're processing these loans and they're administrating these loans, and they should be able to get more money from the federal government. And they're afraid that they're going to lose money from the federal government if Biden's plan been allowed. The fact that they were giving standing should not just outrage people who care about the student loan issue, it should outrage conservatives, because conservatives should be sitting here and saying, well, wait a second. Why is the state arguing that it's entitled to tax dollars? Like, if somebody gets a loan forgiven, guess what? So again, the fact that they gave the state standing in that particular stance was weird to me, especially with how strict they are with standing. So they might argue, you can't bring a suit unless you're a patient. Or maybe they might argue you can't bring a suit unless you're the doctor being told to disclose and you're not disclosing. Or maybe they might argue that you can't bring a lawsuit unless you actually get fined or lose your license. Or maybe they might argue that the person who needs to bring the case is the individual whose personally identifiable information got published to a state website. And if that person was able to say, oh, that person is me, then I would say that person probably would be very likely to be able to challenge the law, because that person will be able to point to the data and say, this person is me, and I know it's me, and anybody else can figure out it's me too. So if that person can make such a case, then that person would likely have standing. Would somebody have standing if they are somebody who is in the middle of transitioning and they don't want their information shared by the provider? Maybe they sued the provider to not disclose to the state, and maybe that's what brings the case. Or maybe the provider, is told by the government, you have to give this information, or maybe they want some information, but the provider won't give all the information, and then when the state says, no, you have to, then they sue and try and get a stay. Again, it's difficult to say how the Supreme Court will rule on standing, because they're so wishy-washy on it to begin with. So, Edgewalker says, Dan, we're falling asleep. Are you being paid to read the script? I got paid for some people who gave, the gifts in the YouTube chat, but nobody is paying me to share my opinion on the fact that I don't like this law. And of course, if you don't like detailed legal analysis of what's going on in certain states, you're free to leave. Don't let the door kick you on the ass on the way out. Of course, we welcome everybody here on Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right. But sometimes we go into the nitty-gritty. Sometimes we get granular with some of this stuff. And that's one of the things that I do, I think, differently than many of the other people out there, is I will get into the muck. I will get into the legal specifics, and I will tackle these issues more so than many other people do it. And if that bores you, then maybe the show's not for you. But, sometimes you just got to trudge through it, right? Sometimes you get sometimes you get information from, I'm just completely lost my train of thought because I was trying to read something in the chat. Sometimes you get funny shit like, me doing Donald Trump in the Star Wars universe, and sometimes you get serious shit like my legal analysis of certain laws. I mean, when Dobbs v. Jackson was leaked, and we went over the law, we had an entire show that was me just going through the law and just dissecting the law line by line and saying what the problems with the law was. And then what was great, what makes me think and makes me say that I know what I'm doing on these things, is that when we later then read the dissents for the dissents for Dobbs v. Jackson, the arguments that I made were made by the dissenters. Like those professional people, those judges, those justices, those people who have practiced law for a very long time in their lives. Those people made the same arguments that I made, weeks or months prior. So Made me feel good that I got it right, right? Stop with the Peppy Frog crap. It's immature. Hey, Catherine, good to see you over on YouTube. Some people are coming in and out on Twitch, you know, or on TikTok, I mean, so it is what it is. Oh, I'm sorry, that's Trump's line.
It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. What else? The Supreme Court justices are frauds. Yes, they are, especially Alito. Somebody on one of my friends' posts tried to make an argument that Alito and Thomas are some of the best justices out there, and I just almost spit out my drink. I almost ruined my keyboard because the idea that Alito is anywhere near the best. Alito's the worst one that the court has ever had ever because he's a fucking idiot. And I'm more than happy to go over that if anybody needs a reminder as to why Justice Alito is an idiot and why his rulings suck. And we can now give 5. We used to give 3, and then we could give 4 because of Dobbs. Now we can give 5 because of Louisiana versus Calais. So, anywho. So that is the conversation on the trans law for Tennessee. Tennessee is also up to some other shenanigans because Tennessee is trying to also redraw the districts post-Calais because this is a scramble for the GOP to be racist as fuck because that's what the GOP is, a bunch of racist MFers. The politicians are definitely a bunch of racist MFers. There are a few who are the exception. There was a Republican who actually got in front of the committee when, you know, as they were talking about what was going on with redistricting, and he was like, I'm a Republican, I'm a member of the Republican State Central Committee, and this is wrong, and y'all are wrong for doing this. And not only does it go against American values, it goes against Republican values. And I was like, good. Somebody who actually is not a hypocrite and somebody who stands on the ideals that he stands for, regardless of who those issues are affecting. Tennessee couldn't be bothered to do all that. Tennessee's Republican House Speaker is punishing Democrats for participating in a chaotic end to a special session lawmakers used to redraw congressional maps to bolster a GOP candidate in the midterm election. House Speaker Cameron Sexton later said Tuesday to House Minority Leader Karen Camper, notifying her that Democratic caucus members will be removed from all standing committees and subcommittees except in cases where their membership is required by House rules. Letters to individual members told them to contact Camper for information. All 24 House Democrats are barred, including Reps Justin Jones of Nashville and Justin Pearson of Memphis, both who were also ousted and reinstated after Democratic pushback following the House chamber protests over gun laws in wake of the Covenant School shooting that unalived, TikTok, 6 people, including 3 kids. The Crossville Republican cited the incident in which House Democrats gathered in front of the chamber as Republicans voted to redistrict the state's congressional map last week and locked arms in a show of solidarity. Similarly, Senate Speaker Randy McNally is considering possible action against 6 Senate Democrats who blocked arms as well in a blatant violation of civility and decorum. Coming from the people that, screamed out, "You lie!" when Obama was talking, and the people who shout out all the livelong day whenever there's a Democrat giving the State of the Union address or anybody else, because hypocrisy is a conservative prerequisite. Sexton said in his letter that House Democrats who all voted against the redistricting map blocked aisles, instigated and encouraged disruption, yada, yada, yada. Well, you know what? Sometimes you need to get in that good trouble. Sometimes you need to take a stand and stand up to the bullies. And Republicans are bullies, and they don't like when people stand up to the bullying. Simple as that. Committee removal will affect Democrats only for the rest of the year, including summer meetings of committees such as Joint Government Operations and Fiscal Review. But if Sexton wins re-election to the Speaker's post again for the 115th legislation session, he could continue the ban or place Democrats in small numbers on inconsequential committees. Democratic Rep. Gabby Salinas of Memphis said in an online post she would do it again. Camper of Memphis defended Democratic caucus members, saying they were responding to one of the most troubling abuses of power this legislature has seen in recent memory. In apparent frustration, she said Republicans can met out any punishment they want. They have proven time and time again that they have little regard for precedent, fairness, or even the spirit of the law itself. True. Camper accused Republicans of consistently abusing their supermajority. They held a 65 to 24 advantage and changing the rules to benefit themselves and punishing those that challenged them. New map splits the former 9th U.S. congressional district in majority black, majority Democrat Memphis into 2 seats and dilutes them with rural and suburban white counties stretching into Maury and Williamson counties in Middle Tennessee. The map's Republican sponsors repeatedly said the map was redrawn to minimize or maximize partisan advantage. Of course, maximizing partisan advantage basically means we're cracking up the black vote into 2 so that they have less voting power. Again, the Gingles ruling said that you can't do that. You cannot water down the voting power of a minority race. You cannot do it. And it doesn't matter what your intent is. If your intent is to increase the partisan advantage and you end up watering down the black vote, guess what? You're violating Gingles. And then Milligan said the same thing, using Gingles to say that these congressional districts were drawn in a way that watered down and diluted the voters of Alabama who happen to be black, that they're losing say in Congress. And that Milligan ruling, which was ruled by the Supreme Court, that basically reaffirmed that you can't have maps that are drawn that, dilute the voting power of a racial minority. And so Louisiana's Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, the most conservative court of appeals in the nation, agreed with a lower court ruling that said that Louisiana had to redraw their maps. And that's why Louisiana redrew their maps. And then Louisiana versus Calais comes to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court says, even though you are not allowed to dilute the voting power of a race under Gingles and Milligan, even though that's the case, you can't fix the problem of an illegally gerrymandered districting map that illegally dilutes black voting power by taking race into consideration while fixing it. That doesn't make any goddamn sense. And we will continue to say that. We'll continue to talk about that until we're blue in the face. So, anyway, so that's what's going on in Tennessee. The other thing that's going on in Tennessee. So, hey Teresa, good to see you. Thank you for joining. Appreciate you. Hey Basic Coding, good to see you too. MJ Daniel, thank you for joining. Again, just remember, everybody who's come in, remember to smash that like button before you smash the patriarchy. Remember to subscribe if you haven't subscribed. I'm sure most of you have already. Remember to share the channel out, especially the videos that you enjoy, and say, hey, this person would love to have more subscribers because he gives you great content. I give the best content. Nobody gives better content whatsoever. See, Edgewalker says, should they all be in jail like January 6th, where we heard so much about? Do they even need a trial, actually? Yeah, who are you talking about, Edge? Who are you suggesting should be in jail? Like, who? Who are you talking about? Snopes, kind of at it again a little bit, dealing with the claim that Trump deposits, whether or not they will be refunded if the device isn't released. And Snopes like, what? We know. At least Snopes was able to say that there's, they did say there's no evidence that Trump Mobile told people who paid $100 deposits for the so-called T1 phone that they would not receive a device or get their money back. Trump Mobile changed his pre-order deposit terms, yada, yada, yada. It was unclear at the time of the writing when Trump Mobile would release the T1 phone, if at all, because it would only be clear whether people lost money when Trump Mobile. But Snopes will update this report if additional information surfaces. We contacted Trump Mobile to ask whether it contacted nearly 600,000 customers, and they're awaiting a reply. I'm sure they're not going to get a reply either because they don't believe in any sort of transparency whatsoever because they're run by the Trump brothers. But again, and some people are going to say MAGA is fuming because emails confirm that they're not getting their $500 Trump phone or their deposits back, which is why we joked around about the whole thing about whether or not we should make the MAGA-mectin thing and say, hey, here's MAGA-mectin, put a $100 deposit down and we'll give you, some MAGA-mectin, or we'll give you a shirt. And then don't give either of them, right? And try and take advantage of the gullible nature of the Trump supporters. So yeah, while it's unconfirmed whether or not the Trump phones will return deposits or they will produce a phone, it's also unconfirmed that they will. There's no confirmation that the Trump phone company will be giving any refunds. And until they actually provide refunds to people who request them, then I'm going to sit here and believe that they're probably, in my opinion, going to be operating like their dear old dad. And they'll probably find excuses and find ways to rip off their consumers. And the MAGA folks will continue to take it. Maybe some MAGA folks will be like, I've had enough! Like we saw in chat the other day when one of the friends of the show who was a MAGA guy, or used to be a MAGA guy, is no longer because he's fed up and tired of Trump. So good for him for reaching his senses. Unfortunately, that is the exception and not the rule. So I have a feeling that the vast majority of the people who put money up to try and buy a Trump phone either did so just because they wanted to kiss Trump's ass and didn't actually care about the phone, or they wouldn't care if Donald Trump ripped them off because they're still going to vote for Trump because they don't care. Edgewalker that says the protesters entering the local state house. It wasn't protesters entering the house. It was the legislators who were doing the arm locking thing. So it's not the same thing. And there were people in the hallways who were chanting outside the hearings as to, to shut this whole thing down or whatever. But they weren't actually, breaking into the Capitol. They weren't damaging property. They weren't saying how the lieutenant governor of the state should be hung up on gallows. They weren't breaking windows and trying to break through them. They weren't actually being violent. So yes, the people who were violent should have been locked up from January 6th, but Trump decided to pardon those assholes, those domestic terrorists. And if you think that people, again, this is why we made Steve Scalise Hypocrite of the Week this week, because he went to some vigil thing pertaining to like National Police Officers Week, and he was, I care so much about the blue lives matter, blue lives matter. No, they only think blue lives matter. They only back the blue when the blue get in trouble for killing black people. That's when they back the blue. Any other time, they couldn't give a shit. Especially when it came to like Michael Fanone and other law enforcement officers who got attacked and assaulted, etc. on January 6th. You had a guy whose helmet was being slammed in the doorway by MAGA protesters, by these domestic terrorists, and all the, it was a peaceful protest. It was so peaceful. It was a day of peace. No, it's not a day of peace if you're slamming somebody's door or head in a door. That's not peaceful, not one bit. And absolutely, those people deserve to be in prison. Absolutely. And the fact that Trump pardoned them and that you didn't hear outcry from the back the blue people shows that y'all back the blue people tend to be a bunch of fucking hypocrites, right? Wait, why are you bringing up the sunk cost fallacy? I have no idea. Edgewalker, peaceful like the summer of love, or Don Lemon entering a church. Yeah, Don Lemon is a reporter, and as a reporter, you're allowed to follow up and record people who are, doing criminal things, and you're not required to step away from it. You can cover it as somebody who is somebody in the media. If I see somebody committing a crime and they let me follow them committing their crime, I'm free to record them and document them doing it as somebody who is, producing it for some sort of show for the media. The idea that Don Lemon committed a crime is just ridiculously absurd. It's stupid and a violation of the First Amendment to claim to try and arrest him for doing the job of the press. Because you don't have to simply be a part of a major news organization to be considered the press. But, the protest, the violence that took place, during that summer of love or whatever, was done after the protest. The actual protests themselves were peaceful. Were there people who took advantage of that? Were there criminals who might have been like, while the police are busy doing this other thing, we're going to go attack the target, or we're going to go raid the target or whatever? Sure, but those people weren't part of the protest. Those people were just criminals who were taking advantage of the police presence somewhere else. Police are busy over here. Criminals are going to attack. One has nothing to do with the other. And then there was a case where one of the Boogaloo Boys in Minneapolis, I think it was, burned down a police station. And the reason he came to Minneapolis to burn down a police station because he wanted to make it look like it was somebody on the left. Some BLM protester was doing it. But in reality, it was him. It was a conservative doing it. And he got punished for it. Glad it happened, right? Big Hook says, Scalise is a well-known neo-Nazi white supremacist. Oh, you don't have to tell me. I used to live in his district. Depending on how they redraw the new districts, I haven't seen how the map looks. I could very well be in his district again if they draw me out of District 2. Or they draw him into District 2. They probably won't draw him into District 2. They'll probably make sure that the Republican majority leader is going to be in a safe Republican district. Absolutely. So I doubt that I'll be in Steve Scalise's district again. But again, Steve Scalise is the guy that said, and I quote, I'm David Duke without the baggage. Who fucking says that? Who admits to being David Duke anything? And how can you be David Duke without the baggage? Being David Duke automatically comes with baggage because you're a former Grand Wizard. So Catherine goes, I'm kind of drunk right now. I'm trying to take the edge off his head, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry you had a bad day. You know, wish I could help you better. Rewind back to the earlier part, especially if you're a Star Wars nerd. Go back to like one of the first things I did this show, or wait till I post it tomorrow, I guess, or maybe later tonight. We'll see when it comes out. Wait till I post it later, when, you know, my whole little spiel of Donald Trump as somebody who's a member of the Star Wars universe and doing his little Star Warsian rant, right? Anyway, we will see how Snopes continues to follow this whole Trump cell phone thing or whatever. You also have the situation of Louisiana Attorney General Liz Murrill. Now, we've talked about Liz Murrill before on this show. Liz Murrill was the one who, when Calvin Duncan was running for his criminal clerk of court seat that he won with like 60+% of the vote, he was saying that he was exonerated because they overturned his conviction. And Murrill was like, you can't say that. But I think a judge eventually told him, yep, he can. He can say that he was exonerated because he was wrongfully found guilty, which exonerates you under the law. Because under the law, if you're not considered guilty, you're innocent until proven guilty. And if they didn't prove him guilty, then he's still innocent. And if he's innocent, he's exonerated until otherwise the law could otherwise prove otherwise. So I don't know how we have an attorney general who doesn't understand the law. But again, the last attorney general, current governor Jeff Landry, or Jeff Clandry, as we like to call him now, Jeff Clandry was also a fucking moron. Moron Jeff Landry in a little bit. Letters were sent to 5 New Orleans City Council members, Mayor Helena Moreno, District Attorney Jason Williams, and retired Judge Calvin Johnson. The Attorney General warned that the Council's resolutions purporting to appoint Judge Johnson as an interim clerk of court and call a special election on the rest of the false narrative that Act 15 created a new vacant office. According to Liz Murrill, the act. Let's read what she said to Mayor Helena Moreno, the new mayor of the city of New Orleans. Dear Mayor Moreno, your May 8th letter and the New Orleans City Council's resulting actions now trigger serious consequences under Louisiana's usurper statutes, including the possible forfeiture of your own office. In that letter, you urge the council to take immediate council action to appoint an interim clerk of court of Orleans Parish on the erroneous premise that Act 15 created a new position of Orleans Parish clerk of court, and that newly created office is vacant by default. The council then adopted that mistaken theory and resolutions, yada, 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 yada. She says the theory is wrong, as her May 8 letter explained. Of course, what she says is wrong and what is actually incorrect are two different things, and we've already covered that on the fact that she claimed that Calvin Duncan couldn't say that he was exonerated when his conviction was overturned, and then courts went ahead and say, yes, he can, because he was. And her legal theory was wrong. Yet again. Often wrong, Liz Murrill. So there's this. I should have brought this one up as well. Let's bring up that. Let's bring up Elena Moreno. Let's bring this up over here. And then we're going to play this. Then we're going to, oh, no, we're going to play this, but for some reason it's not showing up. Let's see, go to post. Instagram's so weird when it comes to showing this stuff. But here we go. I think this is what we need. So,
perfectly clear that I will not be intimidated or threatened by the state attorney general. I received a letter from her today threatening to remove me from office due to my support of recent council action where they appointed an interim clerk of court. In this letter, she also threatens to work to remove our district attorney and 5 members of our New Orleans City Council, Council President Murrill, Vice President Willard, Councilmember King, Councilmember Hughes, and Councilmember McCarran, and then says that it would be up to the governor to appoint all of our replacements. I'll also say that it is surprising that the Attorney General put all of this in a letter, considering that there is a criminal law, which is revised statute 14-122, that prohibits intimidating or threatening a public official.
Dun, dun, dun! Yeah, so it seems like Liz Murrill may very well, by, threatening to have these people be removed from office, and then Jeff Landry would get to replace all of them that got removed if they, in fact, were found guilty of the usurpation law, which I doubt they will be, because, again, Liz Murrill is a fucking idiot, following in the tradition of idiot attorney generals in the state of Louisiana, and idiot statewide Republican elected officials in the state of Louisiana. And now she actually put the threat on paper. So now Helena Moreno has a reason to go after the AG. Now, here's the question. If she wants to sue and press charges against the Attorney General of the state of Louisiana for violating the laws of the state of Louisiana, how does that happen? Are you going to have like a Pam Bondi situation where Pam Bondi said before she got let go that, if you're going to have a Pam Bondi situation where she basically says, well, we're not going to require you to get, arrested for contempt of court or whatever if you violate a court order because we control the U.S. Marshals. So how does that happen? How would she actually go after? So,
in an effort to try to influence a decision or change their position. In this case, the letter says that we must reverse course and change our position on appointing an interim clerk. There's also a variety of different ethical and professional conduct issues with this letter that was sent. The issues surrounding the clerk's office should all play out in court. Let the process work. Let the legal process work, instead of threatening and intimidating people to try to get them to back down. And so bottom line, I'm not going to be threatened, I'm not going to be intimidated, and I won't back down.
She'll stand her ground and she won't back down. She won't back. Hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out. She won't back. Hey, now. She'll stand her ground and she won't back down. Guaranteed I will not get a copyright strike for that one. Absolutely won't get a copyright strike for that. Anyway, so again, here she is, saying that, she insisted that, Liz Murrill insisted that it should be allowed to go through. And she said that, that she feels that she was exonerated. On a post that she made on Facebook, Liz Murrill did, saying that the Supreme Court backed her up when they put a stay. A stay. No. A stay doesn't back her up. A stay just temporarily prevents something from going forward until you can have a full hearing on it. That's what a stay does, which is like, for example, how they have the Supreme Court put a stay on whether or not mifepristone can be prescribed across state lines via telehealth. It doesn't justify the people who are for allowing mifepristone mifepristone to be prescribed via telehealth are not, exonerated, or they're not proven correct because Alito put a fucking stay on it. That's not how that works. They can't say, oh, we're right. They're just saying, Alito's just saying, let's keep the status quo until we're able to figure out what we're going to do in the long run and before we're able to hear any sort of thing about this, which is a shockingly intelligent move by the typically dumb Alito, right? So yeah. We are led by a bunch of
In the United States,
a bunch of nincompoops in the state of Louisiana. And one of them is this guy, Jeff Landry. And now hopefully, this is only a 4 minute and 39-second video. Hopefully, we're not going to get flagged or kicked off for reviewing this thing because, sometimes the people who are watching the CNN content like to be like, oh, you're showing something, and don't understand the idea of fair fucking use, right? So anyway, so let's go back to this. I almost opened up the picture of my stuffed plushie Grogu again. Let's go back to this, and we're going to react to some of this. Now, this part is, we're going to the part of the interview where they're interviewing Jeff Landry.
in the United States, we get equal rights. No one gets extra rights.
Again, this is the bullshit argument that's made by conservatives on everything. That's the same type of argument that they used when people were trying to legalize gay marriage, that somehow legalizing gay marriage creates extra rights. No, it provides equal rights to people who are in homosexual relationships because, they don't have the same rights as people who are in heterosexual relationships. Like people, I'm sure, during Loving versus Virginia said the same thing. You still have the right. White people have the right to marry white people. Black people have the right to marry black people. So everybody has the same rights. But you're not giving people equal rights because the people who want to get married to each other, interracially, aren't able to do so. So they don't have equal rights. The law doesn't treat them the same as everybody else in reality, in practice, which is the problem. And somebody who used to be the Attorney General of Louisiana, someone who's an attorney, should understand this crap. But Jeff Landry is a fucking idiot, so I don't expect him to actually understand it.
This past Tuesday, we went to Baton Rouge and met Governor Jeff.
Hey, everybody, coming down to, gonna send my love down in Baton Rouge. Hurry up, gonna put me on the line. Gotta talk to my girl just one more time. Sorry.
Jeff Landry at the governor's mansion. A close ally of President Trump, he dominates Louisiana politics. The colorful, conservative Cajun was the state's attorney.
Was that all spelled with K's? Colorful, conservative Cajun, KKK? I mean, I know it's not really spelled that way, but, this is Louisiana, and Donald Trump does love the poorly educated, and if it was actually colorful with a K, conservative with a K, Cajun with a K, that they would be more than happy to have it spelled that way so they can put the KKK out there, right?
General before winning the top job in 2023.
You cannot say that we are all created equal and that states must treat everyone equal under the law and then allow a law to sort people based upon race.
But that's exactly what you want to do. There was a bill. Somehow this bill didn't pass out of committee. And there are Republicans, there are conservative folks who are very angry at the fact that the conservatives didn't go and pass the bill out of committee to have a 6-0 Republican to Democratic map. Instead, they went again with a 5-1 Democratic map. And when you make the law in such a way, you sign the bill in such a way, or you pass it in such a way that you end up disenfranchising black voters by taking away their voting power, then absolutely, you're discriminating against them. So why is it discrimination against people when you're making sure that black people have an equal say in Congress? It's discrimination. Why is that okay and not illegal discrimination, but then magically it's illegally discrimination when you're fixing the problem of only having 5 and 1? And this is going to create an interesting situation because what if after they pass this map, somebody then brings a lawsuit under Milligan and under Gingles that says you've now watered down the black vote. You've now watered down a black vote. The end result of this legislation now will be going back to a watered down black vote, which violates Gingles, which violates Milligan. And then the Supreme Court, if they're consistent, will then be like, well, you're right. So then you're going to go back and forth. Well, how do you draw a map how do you draw a map that fixes illegal racial gerrymandering by watering down the black voters' power by not looking at race? It's stupid and it's dumb. Hello, Goddess Kimchi. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us tonight. Appreciate you. Again, if you like Star Wars, make sure to rewind later on in the video when we're done and go watch my little Trumpian rant thing. Or watch the video when it gets posted, later tonight or tomorrow.
What exactly is the emergency?
We've got the highest court of the land says the map that you have is unconstitutional, so we don't have a map under which our voters can vote on.
But we already had people casting ballots on this issue. Now, if you've went and followed academic dissent, which is Big Hook, showed me academic dissent's YouTube page, and you should absolutely go follow the YouTube page of academic dissent because she's generally making very correct comments. I had to correct one of the things that she said, I think earlier, which I, a little hesitant on, but in reality, she made some comment that seemed to ignore the fact that Milligan was ruled on by the Supreme Court. So I just had to throw that in there just to add a little bit more of information or whatever. Anyway, she has a lot of good information a lot of good videos on this issue as well, and I highly recommend, if you haven't subscribed to her, go subscribe to her. Anyway, let's continue hearing what this idiot has to say.
The country has held elections during the Civil War, during 2 world wars. Elections still went on.
We're going to have an election, and we're actually going to have an election on election day.
We're going to have an election. We have an election on election day, but we already had an election. People already cast ballots in that election. There are people who have their ballots that have already been cast for the congressional offices, and he's tossed them. He's thrown away those votes. Those votes for those Congress people are no longer there, and he's thrown them away. It's ridiculous. Edgewalker, it wasn't equal protection before, Dan. That's why they're changing it. It was equal protection. And again, the way to actually fix it, the way to actually fix this problem, there's a video up on liberaldanradio.com right now. I highly recommend you go watch it. We've discussed this issue before, and we'll continue to discuss it again. Is that you do slates of candidates. You reapportion correctly in a way that accurately reflects each state's proportionality to the overall population of the country, and you assign them correctly those amounts, which means you get rid of the artificial 435 number, and then you get rid of districts altogether, so therefore they can't draw the maps, then those people can get elected in a proportional way, so that people can have their actual say. So if, like, black voters in Louisiana want to make like a congressional black caucus slate and want to run people who want to be under the congressional black caucus state, then the people can vote for that slate. And if people want to have, a slate where it's just, let's say it's blue dog Democrats, they can vote for that slate too, if they want to. And in reality, I've made the argument that Louisiana could very well have 3 Democratic congresspeople if you allowed such a thing to happen, which is why the Republicans would never allow it. Even though I've made the argument that this would help fix your issues in California. This would help fix the issues in the Northeast. All those states that the Republicans like to argue that, well, they don't give us the equal to say that we're a certain percentage of this population and they don't give us the say. Boo-hoo. Well, guess what? This would fix that. And you would get everybody's having equal say in every single state. At least as close to it as possible. But there's not enough political will at this point to change people's hearts and minds and make sure and push for a constitutional amendment, like we had a constitutional amendment on the 17th Amendment to get direct election of senators, as we talked about last show as well. So, anyway, it was in fact unfair before the change designed from back in the day. Now it's fixed to be fair, proportional rather than... So, Edgewalker, if they would have made it 6-0, would you have said it's fair? Would you have said that the districting is fair if Alabama goes to a 7-0 map, and if Louisiana had Louisiana gone to a 6-0 map where all 6 districts were Republicans, would you say that's fair? And if you do, you're a fucking idiot. Because it's not. It's absolutely not. They are purposely taking away the power of black people. They're also eliminating the seats of black people. That's what's happening with the Calvin Duncan case. Calvin Duncan is a black person and the other person is a black person. Now they have two clerks of court, one civil, one criminal. Completely different jobs, and now they're combining the offices into one, eliminating one elected position that's typically an elected black person. They're getting rid of judgeships now. They're trying to pass laws in this current legislative session to get rid of judgeships in New Orleans. A lot of whom, not all of them, but a lot of whom are black people. So they're trying to get rid of and they're targeting the places that have black elected officials because these motherfuckers are racist as shit. They are absolutely racist as shit. It is drawn without consideration to race, with what the Supreme Court will. They are absolutely considering race. And the Supreme Court precedent of Gingles doesn't care what the intent is. If the effect of the law under the Gingles ruling, and go look it up, the Gingles ruling specifically states that if the net effect is that you water down the voting power of a certain racial minority or any voting group or whatever, but in this case of a racial minority, what happened in Alabama and what was going on in Louisiana, if you draw the maps in such a way that disenfranchise, dilute, water down the power of black voters, then that is an illegally drawn map under Gingles. And Calais did not eliminate Gingles. Calais did not say Gingles is no longer. Calais is not like what happened with Dobbs v. Jackson and Roe versus Wade and Casey versus Planned Parenthood, where with Dobbs v. Jackson, it absolutely overturned Roe versus Wade and Casey versus Planned Parenthood. Calais may have weakened Gingles in effect because now you have conflicting arguments, but it never specifically overturned Gingles. Gingles still says that even if your intent is not to dilute the voting power of a minority race, but you still end up doing so, then it's an illegally drawn map too. So you're absolutely fucking wrong. No, Edgewalker, you're the one who's fucking wrong. You're absolutely wrong. There's no such thing as black voters. There's only legal American voters. Fuck off. There is such a thing as voters who are black, and that's what these Republicans are trying to do because they understand that Republican or that black voters tend to vote for Democrats, and so they want to water down the black populations and their votes. It's exactly what's going on. You just don't want to admit it because you have your head buried in the sand. But these people are absolutely acting racist as fuck, and they know what they're doing because the Supreme Court gave them the roadmap as to how to discriminate against black people and do it under the way that they are now interpreting the Civil Rights Act. The Department of Justice, in part, was created to help deal with the 14th Amendment issues. And the 14th Amendment is what gave Congress the ability to pass things like the Voting Rights Act. And now the Department of Justice has been flipped on its head because now it's going to be going after, states that make sure that the voting power of black people are what they should be. And again, you would fix this problem. Get behind my plan, Edgewalker. Get behind my plan of electing slates of candidates, because then you don't draw lines. You don't draw maps. You just use the state boundaries, and then you elect a slate of candidates or slates of candidates within those state boundaries. You have the situation where politicians don't get to choose their voters. You have the voters choosing their politicians, and you don't have to argue whether or not how these lines are being drawn. Are these voters being disenfranchised? Are these voters not being disenfranchised? At least as it pertains to districting or redistricting. It should be something that we all could agree on. But you're not going to do it because you tacitly support the racism that's going on in the Republican Party. Because that's what's happening. You are tacitly approving of the racism of the Republican Party, especially the Republican Party in the South. I mean, you saw how quickly they went to draw these maps immediately because they're like, ooh, we can go after him again. No. Maybe the Democratic Party is racist and only votes for white people, but look at the Republicans. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, you have tokens in your party. You have some people who toe the line, and you say, oh, we voted for this one, so therefore we're not racist. Fuck off. That's just, you're so lost. You are so fucking lost and brainwashed. You are fucking brainwashed at this point. I'm sorry, dude, but you are absolutely brainwashed. I'm not saying that black people should vote as a racial bloc. I'm saying that they do. Because that's one of the other tests that Gingles requires. Gingles requires that the voting group, the people who are voting, Gingles requires them to also be kind of voting together. So if you can't look at a group and saying, oh, well, let's say you looked at another racial group, or let's say you looked at another ethnic group, and that ethnic group was like 50-50 or 60-40, you couldn't make the argument that that group, you know, that you're discriminating against the group because you can't say whether or not. But when black voters tend to vote for Democrats 90% of the time or more, guess what? They are voting as a voting bloc. And the reason they're voting for a voting bloc is because the Republican Party is full of a bunch of racist shitheads. Why do you think Strom Thurmond became a Republican? Because the Democratic Party rejected his racism, and he left the Democratic Party because he wanted to be a segregationist, and then he found a nice cozy home in the Republican Party. The whole Southern strategy of Nixon and Reagan, abso-fucking-lutely. Absolutely. The Southern strategy of Nixon and Reagan was based on race. They went and targeted these racist assholes down here in the South and said, the Democratic Party left you. Ronald Reagan's like, well, I didn't leave the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party left me. Well, guess what? We left you because you didn't change your mind and you decided to stay. You decided to go leave and be with the Republican Party, who are what? A bunch of fucking racists. Let's continue.
Voting was already happening. As we sit here right now, more than 45,000 ballots have been returned. What happens to those?
Oh, those ballots are discarded, and
the ballots are discarded. You just discarded 45,000 legally cast ballots. People who are military, who vote absentee overseas, from overseas. Louisiana military members have just had their votes thrown out. And guess what? You know what? Let's say you do redraw the districts for like 2028. There's no law requiring that the person that, you know, the district that you are in, there's no law that says that you have to live in it. It's weird, but it's true. You don't have to live in the district that you live in, that you are representing. So you could change the maps and have somebody representing that district, even though they no longer live in the map. But you could do so in a way that doesn't throw away 45,000 legitimately cast ballots. Let's talk about Republicans and throwing away legitimately cast ballots for a second, shall we? In 2012, during the presidential election here in Louisiana, you had several things on the ballot. You obviously had the presidential election in November 2012. And in the parishes of Orleans, Jefferson, and Plaquemines, I believe, the three groups of people who are most likely to be using the bridge that's called the Crescent City Connection. There were tolls on that bridge. Now, the tolls on the bridge did a lot of things. The tolls on the bridge helped subsidize the ferries to help keep traffic off the bridge. And those toll subsidies went, and they also went to the maintenance of the bridge and the care of the bridge, or whatever, like the grass cutting or whatever. And the Crescent City Connection was the best rated bridge in the state. The state has a shit ton of C and D rated bridges. But the bridge, the Crescent City Connection, was like an A rated bridge because of the tolls that it collected. And also it was easier to get across because, again, you subsidized the ferries with some of those toll funds. And had they included the ferry subsidization, easy for me to say, I have the best words, no one has better words. If they would have funded the ferry subsidization, I don't know why I can't say that word tonight. It's like desalination, right? Then it probably would have passed with a much wider margin because the people like in Algiers Point, people on the West Bank would be like, well, yeah, we like the ferries, so let's subsidize the ferries, and more people would have come out. But you had a group of people in Algiers Point, which is the area that's closest to one of the ferries at least. You had people in Algiers Point who were like, well, I'm not voting for the tolls if we're not getting our ferry subsidized. And they did that specifically. They specifically excluded the tolls subsidizing the ferries because they knew people wouldn't vote for it if they wasn't doing the subsidies. And all those Tea Party morons were out there trying to, fight against the tolls. And guess what? Of the 300,000 plus votes that were cast in the parishes of Orleans, Jefferson, and Plaquemines Parish, the difference between the votes was like fewer than 1,000. The number of no's on to discontinue the tolls, the number of people voting to discontinue the tolls were fewer than 1,000 people under the people who voted yes, let's keep the tolls. That's how close this election was. Over 300,000 votes, a difference of less than 1,000. So these people who were conservatives sued and tried to get the election over the election. And why did they sue? What was their basis for suing? Well, they argued that there were over 1,000 people in those three parishes who cast provisional ballots, because at the time you were required to have provisional ballots. After the 2000 election, they created provisional ballots to be able to make sure that people who know that they should be able to vote but are being prevented from doing so, they can then sign a provisional ballot, and then they check the provisional ballot, and if it's valid, then they count it. If it's not valid, then they don't. But the provisional balloting only had the federal elections on it and didn't have the state elections on it. Now, the best way that I could think of to fix that issue is take those 1,000 people, offer those 1,000 people, or however many people it actually was, take those people, let them cast their ballot on this issue. And then if the tolls lost, the tolls lost. If the tolls won, the tolls won. Keep it secret. Don't be out there advertising who it is. Don't want to barrage them with so much information, so much attraction. You don't want to attack them and target them or whatever. But let them have their say. If they want their, and if not enough people come out, if people are like, well, I don't care. Yeah, I don't care about this issue, so I'm not going to vote on it. Or if it was split 50-50, or split in such a way that you still didn't get the yeses losing, then the tolls would have remained. But if they did, and you got enough people to overcome the difference, then guess what? The tolls would have gone away. But that's not what the conservatives argued for. That's not what the Republicans in this state argued for. That's not what the court did. The solution to fix the problem of 1,000 voters not having their say on whether or not tolls would be allowed because they had to vote provisionally. The fix was, let's toss out the entire election. Let's toss 300,000 votes that were legally cast on this issue and let everybody revote. And the tolls lost. How can you justify throwing away 300,000 legally cast ballots? So throwing away 45,000 is still bad, but it's child's play compared to what these motherfuckers did in 2012. And I voted for the tolls. My wife voted against the tolls because she didn't like the fact that they weren't funding the ferries. But I was like, I drive across this bridge every day. I would like it to remain the best subsidized, the best funded bridge, the best maintained bridge in the state because I travel on it every fucking day. At least at the time. But it lost because my vote that was legally cast got tossed, as well as over 300,000 other people's votes got tossed. All because these whiny bitches didn't have their say, couldn't win the way they wanted to. Let's continue hearing about old Jeff Landry.
And those voters will vote.
I'm sorry, Jeff Landry.
Vote again in November.
You say that like it's not a big deal.
Well, it's not a big deal. It's not my fault.
It's not a big deal. It's not my fault. It is your fault because you took the action. You signed the executive order declaring the so-called emergency to cancel the congressional elections, therefore causing these ballots to be tossed. You didn't have to do that, but you did. Why? Because you're a piece of shit governor.
If anybody has a grievance, take it to the United States Supreme Court.
Oh, I have my grievances with the Supreme Court, but you need to take personal accountability for your own actions as well. But as we say here on Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left, that's right, the idea of personal accountability is so foreign to MAGA types that they've already tried to deport it.
Our voters are tired of it. I mean...
Yeah, we're tired of, so many of us are tired of you. And what did I do yesterday? I signed the petition to fucking recall Jeff Landry. And then I had some delicious food at Chicken's Kitchen, a great place. If you're ever in the New Orleans area, make your way over to the West Bank and go to the Chicken's Kitchen, because that shit is fire. That shit is absolutely fire. Hey, Bethany, good to see you. Thank you for joining. Oh, thank you, everybody, for who is watching Boston Brian, who is coming over here as well. Appreciate y'all. Thank you so much. Yes, Big Hook. You win, Dan. You live in the most racist state ever. Yeah, unfortunately, it's true.
Does not Louisiana deserve some clarity?
How do you want to
Yeah, we deserve clarity, and we deserve a fucking governor that respects the rights of the people, and you do not.
see this look?
I want Louisiana to be finally unshackled from.
Interesting choice of words there, because there are many people in Louisiana who would have no problem shackling people again.
The decades of litigation.
Would it concern you if there were no African-American representatives from Louisiana in Congress?
That's a decision that the legislature is going to make, but I don't.
But you could set the example as the governor, but you don't, because you're a fuckstick.
I don't believe that that we have to go and draw a district that guarantees us a minority representation.
But Gingles, again, requires you to not draw districts that disenfranchise minority groups who vote as a voting bloc, who can be regionally contiguous in some form or fashion, and who are part of some sort of minority that the majority is effectively disenfranchising regardless of intent. But again, this former attorney general and this attorney in Louisiana doesn't seem to understand that simple concept. I'm not an attorney, and I get it. He doesn't seem to get it because he's a fucking moron.
Districting usually happens at the beginning of each decade using census data.
Is the biggest difference now President Trump's in office?
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. Don't lie. I mean, you're a politician, so how do you know a politician is lying? Their lips are moving.
Oh, in fact, to me, the president is.
Kimchi. Oh, is that Cajun? Excuse my ignorance. I took it as illiteracy. My bad. It's both. It's Cajun illiteracy. There are plenty of Cajuns who are bright people who might sound like that, but he both has a Cajun accent and he's a fucking moron.
Has no.
I'm sorry, Captain Greenland is a fucking moron. Jeff Landry is a fucking moron.
He's irrelevant in this issue right now.
Oh, you're gonna piss off some conservatives and some MAGA folks in Louisiana by saying Donald Trump's irrelevant.
He's been heaping praise on you for this.
Well, I'm sure that the president would like to see the House of Representatives stay in Republican control.
I do.
Well, no shit. That's why he begged Texas to do what Texas did. That's why he's going around begging all these other states to also do what they're trying to do. And that's why these states are salivating after Calais, the dumb ruling of Calais.
I have to ask you point blank, has the president asked you to...
Wait, hold on. Supreme Leader Bean, why are you yelling? Wait, I've been tagged for harassment and bullying? Well, who have I harassed and bullied over on TikTok? Fuck off. Did you report me, Supreme Leader Bean, for being harassing and bullying? I haven't harassed you or anybody else at all. So fuck off.
Redraw maps in order to help him in the midterm?
The president has not asked me to redraw.
He has not asked me to do it. My president has not asked me. And if he asked you, I would hope it, he wouldn't ask you because that would hurt, right?
The maps.
Suggested, in his opinion, that there's less institutional racism today.
Well, I would agree with that. I mean, think about it. Barack Obama.
I mean, the fact that there's less institutional racism, that's true. But that doesn't mean the institutional racism has gone away. It's like, oh, there's less fire in your house. Your house was on fire. Oh, now your house is less on fire. So now the firemen can just go away? No, that's stupid.
Obama was elected twice as the United States president.
Right, but he didn't get elected from Louisiana or any of the these states that are changing the rules to make it so that it's harder for black people to win.
We've had a number of minorities elected. We've seen a rise of Republican candidates who are black get elected. I mean, are we really trying to drug up?
But and now you're trying to reduce that by eliminating Calvin Duncan's district, by eliminating some certain judges in their districts who are the seats are held by black folks. You're trying to weaken the ability of black people to get power.
The past only to continue a failed narrative?
What's the failed narrative?
What a failed narrative is that actually that people in Louisiana are racist.
Well, if the shoe fits, if the shrimp boot fits, strap that sumbitch up and wear it.
That basically we won't elect black people. I mean, I disagree with that.
We've never elected a black person post-Reconstruction statewide in this state ever. Just let you think about that. Not once have we elected a black person in a statewide election here in Louisiana.
African American voters in this.
Well, I mean, yeah, after I got post-Reconstruction, PBS Pinchback was elected governor immediately, but then, you know, they quickly moved to stop that.
State might say they need that protection when it comes to the ballot box.
I mean, we go back to Martin Luther King, right? Judge a person based upon the content of their character rather than the color of their skin.
Then why are you trying to draw the people out of their districts? Why are you trying to give them less representation if they should be treated equally? You're not treating them equally. And Edgewalker, I'm a moron, this guy's a moron, this guy on YouTube is a moron, maybe it's you. Or maybe it's y'all. Maybe we just have a lot of stupid people. Again, Donald Trump said he loved the poorly educated after the 2016 Nevada primaries, and the MAGA supporters are consistently every day trying to prove themselves worthy of that love. So,
Black voters in Louisiana have told me that they feel like it's true. Someone who looks like you, who has not lived their experience, does.
And this is where it gets really good. And by really good, I mean really ridiculous.
Not address their concerns as well as someone who has lived their experience.
Well, how is it that a little country boy who grew up in a town that was primarily black, not lived through those experiences?
How can he, a white man, not understand the lived life experiences of black people? I was the only white person on my block for many years when I was a young kid before my parents split. The only white person on the block. I would never think to say that because I was living in a majority black community that I would magically understand what black people deal with on a daily basis. You have never, Jeff Landry has never been pulled over for a DWB. Never, not once, because he's not black, so he can't be pulled over for a DWB. But plenty of other people have. Then those people are, guess what? They're black. That's why they get pulled over for driving while black. The idea that you can sit here and try and claim that just because you lived next to black people that somehow you're not racist and somehow you don't know their life experiences, that just proves you're even a bigger moron than anybody else thought.
But I do think a lot of folks might say those experiences are not necessarily the same.
Well,
I would. That's for damn sure.
Saying I should not judge a person just because the person is black, and I agree with that. But isn't it the opposite, that I shouldn't be judged just because I'm white?
We're not judging you because you're white. We're judging you because you're an idiot.
Or Hispanic? Or Indian? I mean, here we are.
Surprised they didn't bring up Bobby Jindal.
After all of the different cases, after all of the rectification.
250 kilo. I was born a poor black child. And the movie is perfect for Landry, because that's the jerk. Good movie reference there. 250 kilo ohm, almost reduced you by 100 kilo ohms. I'm sorry.
Of the sins of the past, which certainly no one has denied, and yet we're still trying to find some sliver of discrimination in race.
Sliver, yeah. No, there's plenty of it still.
I think a lot of people would say you don't have to try to find it, it's there.
Yep, exactly.
I would say that you find that it would reside in people's hearts, not in their laws.
Yeah, but the peoples who are creating the laws are actually, you know, I would actually argue that it doesn't necessarily exist in people's hearts. Why? Because the people who are passing these laws have no hearts. Right? Hey, good to see you, Adam Westish. Good to see you, Vasantha. I think I saw Trucker John in there. Good to see you, Quiet Storm. Thank you all for joining. Please make sure to smash that like button in the patriarchy. Let's see. Let's see if we could play around with this. Can we? I don't know. It's not even... do we want to invite? I don't know. No, I don't want to do that. No guest requests yet. Okay, so we're going to wait for guest requests, I suppose. Edgewalker. Dan, it's you who's the racist. I guess I'm a racist then, because I don't want people to discriminate against black people. Are you? I'm sure, Edgewalker, you've said the words plenty of times. The real racists are, and then went on to say some stupid bullshit, right? So, hey, Karen, good to see you. Josh, good to see you. I think Seha was in the chat, too, at some point. I don't know if I missed that one or not, but good to see you as well. MST Wash, good to see you. Thank you. There's Seha, One Vision. Did I miss? If I missed anybody else, I do apologize for not saying hello. But thank you all for supporting the show by coming here. Make sure you have smashed that like button. Edgewalker, how are they being discriminated against? Plenty of different ways. Go look at the voter ID law from the so-called voter ID law from North Carolina that got overturned. The so-called voter ID law, and I say so-called voter ID law, and I'm not going to be looking at your screen right now because I'm going to wait to hear what I don't want to see you say it before I predict you saying it. I say it's the so-called voter ID law because guess what? There are many provisions in that law that have nothing to do with the requirement to show an ID to vote. And those other things targeted black voters, according to the court, with such surgical precision that that's why the law got thrown out. Not because of the ID requirements, but because of the other requirements having nothing to do, pertaining nothing to showing an ID to cast a ballot, that were specifically put in the law to target black voters. And despite my saying that my issue with the law is not those ID requirements, and despite my saying that my problem with these laws are the other requirements that have nothing to do with the voter ID, and they're just using the name voter ID law to just sit here and try and get people to vote for it because, you know, what's wrong with requiring ID? But even though I've said that my issue is not with the ID requirement, even though I said my issue with the other issues, you're probably going to say, what's wrong with requiring an ID to vote? Why do you don't like voter IDs to vote? Why shouldn't people have to? Or people have to show IDs to do other things. Why do they have to show ID? Again, my problem with these issues are not the voter IDs. It's the other parts of these laws that actually work to disenfranchise people and specifically target black people. Oh, didn't say it yet. So we'll see if it's said, because conservatives tend to not be able to help themselves as it pertains to that particular issue. Conservatives tend to not be able to, they always ask the question. I call my shot and it happens. And I'm sure now you're going to be like, oh, I'm not going to do it. But I've called my shot so many times. If you check out the facebook.com/liberaldan, but it's also facebook.com/liberaldanradio, I think I've shared that on both of that, where I have absolutely shared conversations where I not only have predicted that somebody would say it, I've predicted specific people would say it. I've said this person is going to say this, even though I've said that I've made a comment that has basically made saying this to make you look like a damn moron. And then the same person said exactly what I said they were going to say. Because they're so damn predictable, it's ridiculous. Because it's like, you know, they have blinders on, and it's like you have a script. And once you hear a certain thing, once you hear the script, you have to follow it, and you can't distract. So when you hear people criticizing voter ID laws, you have to say, or the so-called voter ID laws, you have to say, well, what's wrong with requiring an ID to vote? If that's true, then why wouldn't they sue and have it end up at the highest court? I mean, it went to court and it got tossed. But maybe because, you know, and I think the appeals court did uphold it, and maybe they didn't take it to the Supreme Court because the Supreme Court didn't feel there was any controversy to be dealt with. And that's why it didn't become the precedent. But even with precedent, you have a majority of people on the Supreme Court who don't give a shit about Supreme Court precedents. They don't care about it. Stare decisis is irrelevant to them. That's why they overturned Roe v. Wade. That's why they've overturned many other things as well. While you may be at least somewhat smarter than the other people who didn't, fall into the trap, there are still plenty of other people who do it. So, anyway. See, Icarus Flying is there on TikTok. We have it open for potentially people to come in and request, but we haven't had a request yet. But again, we're not seeing many people because again, I think I'm shadow banned on most of my social media platforms, which is why I think a lot of times I don't have the engagement, and I'm gonna maybe try and work on something on how to fix that. But as old Trumpy boy says,
It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. So let's see. I think I've covered pretty much everything that I want to cover. Anywho. Oh, it's 10 o'clock. Oh, I actually was surprised we actually made it to 10 o'clock today. We actually went off 2 hours of show. So there you go. Look at that. Oh, Chad, I was just kidding, Josh. Fulfilling Dan's prophecy of the evening. Thank you. Let's see. There and a news article you might want to look at. Nearly 50,000 Lake Tahoe residents have to find new power source after their energy source looks to redirect lines to data centers. Woo, we will definitely talk about that tomorrow. We will definitely look at that tomorrow. Let me actually jot that down for tomorrow's show. 5/12 show. Thank you for that one. I appreciate when people give me good things to talk about. Lake Tahoe power drain data centers, and this is what again was the one. This is the main thing that I'm worried about as it pertains to like Louisiana. What Louisiana is going to do. Again, I'm not opposed to AI in and of itself. I think it's useful. I think it has its purposes, but I do think that these data centers need to be highly regulated to make sure that they're not doing exactly that. That they're not going after, making electricity power or even not accessible. That they need to come in and make their own if they're going to create this big power drain. Because even if they don't take it completely away from the people, the demand is going to go up without supply going up, which means prices are going to skyrocket. So it's going to make people make people's ability to live, not very affordable, right? So, anyway. Women who have gotten married and changed their birth name would have to get real IDs if they don't have one, which makes it a poll tax. I mean, yeah, there is the poll tax thing as well. I have videos on that too. If you go to like Liberal Dan U, the Liberal Dan U playlist, if you go to some of the other like Liberal Dan Investigates playlist, I have several videos dealing with that sort of thing. But yeah, there are definite issues with these laws that they're trying to pass. And again, the issue isn't necessarily with the ID requirement. The issue is what type of ID that they're going to allow. Because again, not even real IDs aren't fully, I think only 5 states have real IDs that actually fit the qualifications and requirements that would be required in the so-called Save America plan or whatever the fuck Trump wants to call it this week. So, but I think 5 states might show it or whatever. Let Dust Parksis over on Twitch. Thank you for first-time chat. Please remember to follow. And if you use YouTube, also head over to liberaldanradio.com and like and subscribe over there because I'm trying to get up to 2,000 subscriptions. And subscriptions are free on YouTube. So I'm trying to get to 2,000 subscriptions. So, go over there, check it out, whatever. But Edgewalker, is a conservative who watches. And look, at the very least, I get things to respond to. It creates content. So, as old Trumpy boy says,
it is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. So, I'm fine with it. I mean, we have mods. The wonderful mod squad that we have, Aaron and Jolie. Sorry for the yawn. The wonderful mod squad do take care of comments that go overboard, that go over and beyond what is allowed in the chat or what we want to have going on in the chat. And it's very well possible that I might have, violated some of my own rules that I wanted to have people on the chat. I need to apologize for that, but sometimes you have to call out the things when you see it, right? Chad says diversity of opinion, in my opinion, is a good thing to be fair. Yeah, and look, people have complained when I had Gibson Media, Joe Gibson on my show. There are plenty of people like, hang up on this guy, don't talk to this guy, why are you allowing this guy to have so much time on your show? And meanwhile, I was giving him enough rope to hang himself. I was giving him enough. I was basically, because he was talking. I remember the episode. You can probably look this up on YouTube as well. Just look up Joe Gibson or Gibson Media on my channel, and you'll find it. So we're having this conversation about. He was bringing up so-called lawfare of the Biden administration, and I was like, okay, well, give me more examples of what you think is going on in the Biden administration with lawfare. I was like, okay. And I was like, all right, so now, when Donald Trump ran for president in 2016, and he was shouting, lock her up, and having his fans shout, lock her up, for Hillary Clinton, his opponent, wouldn't that be threatening to use the Justice Department against a political rival? And he kind of paused for a second, and he kind of laughed a little bit and realized that I got him and caught him in his hypocrisy. And then he was like, yeah. And fortunately, Joe Gibson now doesn't support Trump anymore. He's done with him. He's had enough. Trump crossed his line. Now, Edgewalker, I'm wondering what your line would be. What would cause you to stop supporting Donald Trump? Would you actually have to have a video of him actually violating people on the Epstein files? Or as I said in my Star Wars thing, the Palpatine files? I'm just requiring where people's line with Trump are. Like when I talked to like Jeff Crouere, the host of Ringside Politics on 990 AM, the one I call into, the one where I use a lot of the stuff that he airs. I sometimes use for words of redneck wisdom. I use for other things as well. When I'll talk to Jeff Crouere about these things, I will be like, and he'll admit that there are things that he doesn't like that Trump does. He doesn't like how he's constantly tweeting all the time or posting on Truth Social, whatever. He doesn't like the toxicity of the things that he says, but it's still not enough for him to say, I'm done. I'm no longer going to support Trump. And I don't know where his line would be. I think his line might be further, even more extreme than maybe some of the other people in chat, like Edgewalker or Chad, simply because of the fact that, I think he's afraid that he might lose some of his audience if he were to actually say, Trump has done too much and I reject what he's doing. Now, some of his callers have absolutely said, I'm done with Trump. Some of his callers have absolutely been like, we played, this guy is absolutely, when he told, Jeff and the other people who still support Trump.
You're in a cult, man.
So you have him saying,
you're in a cult, man.
Telling them that they're in a cult following Donald Trump because his line was crossed. So I'm just wondering what is it going to take? What is it going to take for people to be like, I'm done. No more. No mas. I'm done with Trump. I don't know, there's probably some people like, the Latinos for Trump, who probably had some of their family members, deported. And there are some people who have been deported who are citizens. And that has yet to be adjudicated. But, I'm sure those people are be like, okay, I'm done. But, is it going to take him specifically hurting you? And not just generally hurting you, like, now you're having to pay more for goods and services because the tariffs are up. It's not just that. That's not enough. But if you would have to specifically do something to you or someone in your family that you love, and I'm just wondering where that is. Yeah. Well, I understand that you think that Trump is doing well, Edgewalker. It doesn't mean that he's actually doing well. So, yeah, Trucker John, exactly. Good to see you, Trucker John. If you're not subscribed to Trucker John, please make sure to do so. Trucker John has more subs than I do, but still, if you happen to be one of the few who hasn't subbed to both of our channels, please sub to Trucker John because his show is awesome and you should watch him. And he interacts even more with the audience than I do. Sometimes I will get laser focused on a rant and I'll be staring here and I'll miss everything that goes on in the chat. And Trucker John does a much better job of interacting with the chat more than I do, although I think I do a better job of interacting with the chat with others. Then again, still, Hal does interact with his chat. Boston Brian interacts with his chat. Both of them will say hi to me when I say hello to them, which is awesome. They don't have to, but they do. but they have more subscribers, they have more viewers, and as those go up, probably the audience interaction goes down. So I do have one thing though that I thought out that we can close the end of the show, close the show with this point. And but like JD Vance, several kids, I think one more's on the way, right? So JD Vance has kids, has a family, which kind of tells me that there is one type of couch that JD Vance does not like, and that would be a pull-out couch. And that's it for this week's episode of Liberal Dan Radio, or today's episode, I should say, of this week. Man, I go back to the old things when I only did a show once a week, and I would say this week's episode. No, that's the end of today's episode of Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left, that's right. We will be back here tomorrow, Thursday night, 8 p.m. Central, and I will have the show tomorrow because I don't have to do the bunch of cleaning that needed to get done over the weekend that actually didn't get done as much as I would have liked because, but it's not a topic to discuss on the show, so we'll leave that alone. But as old Trumpy boy says,
It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. But again, people like the joke. I appreciate it. I did tell the joke, I think in Stephanie Miller's chat room first. I told it the other day, and I had a bunch of people laughing. I'm like, I'm gonna have to tell this joke on my show. I almost forgot to tell it today. But I ended the show with it. So thank you, Karen, appreciate you. Bethany, everybody else, appreciate it. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please make sure to do so. And as Edgewalker says, stay tuned for the outro bangers, because if there's one thing that everybody likes, or most people like at least, it's the music, the original music from Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from Left, that's right. So as we leave, make sure to smash the like button. If you're not watching on YouTube and you have a YouTube, if you don't have a YouTube account, make one. And if you have a YouTube account, then go subscribe and like and share videos and try and help me get to 2,000 subs by next week, because next Wednesday is my 50th birthday. So thank you very much. Appreciate y'all. Have a good one. Peace.
Tonight, breaking down the chaos with humor and light. From Megan Worldwide to the nerd hailing things, leading the charge in this live stream age. Welcome to the Sparklerverse tonight, where the smart talk lands and the jokes take flight. If the world's gone weird and absurdly terse, come laugh it out in the Sparklerverse. Liberal flair, Stephanie Miller crafting truth on the air. Punchlines flying like fireworks in June. Intelligence cutting straight through the gloom. Then Liberal Dan arrives with rhetorical might, bringing you talk from the left, that's right. Hypocrites and rednecks he will smite, but that after dark show is nowhere in sight. Welcome to the Sparklerverse, please subscribe, cause the trolls get toasted and truth survives. It's a worldwide bar for the curious mind. Pull up a chair, you'll fit just fine. Boston Brian spitting facts wicked high. They're calling out nonsense right in the eye. If they take gate logic, can't back the car. Then he dunks on bad takes like a Sox all-star. Fill up in a bringing the world to view. Frontline updates straight from Ukraine to Rob Glenn up in y'all the digital sea. Talking AI and what it might be. Farrah Dublin with the writer's eye so keen. Certain breaking news into a biting scene. Trucker John rolling in through the night. And don't forget the mods who keep it alright. Different voices, but all refined. Different hours, most of the time. United and cutting through the news. All cheered on by the Sparkler crew. Welcome to the Sparklerverse tonight, where curiosity keeps the lights on bright. Smash that like and come to converse. We're broadcasting live from the Sparklerverse.
said nobody who healthcare could be so complicated. The Obamacare debate was 6 months litigated. Years of med school debt got capitalized. Insurance claim forms so high they nearly capsized. But he wouldn't know the frustration of trying to get prior authorization. Everybody knew, the whole world knew, the doctors, the lawyers, the CBO crew. Oh, 30,000 pages of ready review. It wasn't a big secret. We knew. Don't realize Obama deported, but the porter-in-chief is what La Raza retorted. Obama went after the violent folks and felons, drug nabbed the dishwashers and people picking melons. But that was argument shows that he's not very bright. If Obama made some wrongs, 2 wrongs don't make a right. We knew. He asked who knew a virus could be so contagious. Virologists blinked at someone so outrageous. He was surprised at how many countries existed. No wonder when the virus spread, he the one who missed it. Spread them out, slit red in every deadly hue. World Health Memo said we already knew. Everybody knew. Oh, the whole world knew. Oh, the lab coats, the leaders, and we were with the flu. Oh, the nations of the world, more than 192. It wasn't a big secret. We knew. You unveiled oxygen like contraband air. Like 60. You sat down, claiming to discover chess. War called money was its big surprise. Iraq has oil, can you believe your eyes? He said, we are divided, a surprise to no one thinking. And he was most surprised a Republican was Lincoln. Everybody knew, the whole world knew. The Christians, the Muslims, atheists, and the Jews. Like being shot, they have animals at the zoo. It wasn't a big secret. We knew. Everybody knew. Everybody knew. Everybody knew. Everybody knew.
They wrote it in the laws, ink still bleeds. Treating women like soil, just planting seeds. She's gone, brain dead, not even awake. But the state's got a claim, gonna plant its stake. Say it's God's will, say it's life they protect. But they ain't the ones feeling pain or neglect. From Texas to Georgia, they set the trap. Rights rolled back while they smile and clap. Gilead's here, this is true. Hey MAGA fools, they'll come for you too. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. This ain't pro-life, it's control and shame. They don't care if she's gone, just playing a game. Keep her hooked to machines, cold and still. Just a vessel to them, not a human with will. No consent, no voice, no chance to resist. Just laws in place, written with a clenched fist. Hospitals scared, judges playing God. Bodies ain't temples, just stay on pods. a baby incubator. Bands in the dark, they don't care who it kills. Stacking courts while they strip out all of your wills. But we'll fight back, march loud, burn bright, cause this ain't the end, it's the start of the fight. Kill the ants here, ain't no grace, and those leopards are coming to eat your face. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. Not gonna be a baby incubator. Not gonna be a baby incubator.
Obama and Bush's pictures got hidden, obscuring the past, history rewritten. Hung in a hallway where no tour can see, confirming his unending fragility. If Trump can't see it, you must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. Object permanent, a milestone missed. If Trump can't see it, he must not exist. The testing was the line that he said. Hundreds of thousands needlessly dead. Now HHS is run by brainworm quack, hiding the truth behind his back. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. An administration run by narcissists. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. Of documents stacked floor to the wall, top secret folders in a bathroom stall. Charges were pressed, but the case was dropped. A corrupt judicial system he can co-opt. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. Also includes the Epstein list. He'll swear it's fake news, a liberal twist. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. Campus downtown, tents lining the street. Invisible people that power won't need. Hide them away so the cameras can't find it. Proof of a system that's cold and unkind. Of chaos in secret and NDA signed. An illegal bribe, Michael Cohen fine. Trump got fined too over his gag order, but she didn't gag, cause he was much shorter. It must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. We can't let him win, we must resist. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist.
Trump piled debt, trillions tall. Promised Mexico would fund that wall. Praised dictators, said they're strong. Had Joe done it, they'd say he's wrong. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden treason if Joe's the name. It's patriotism when Donald's to blame. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, more numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they'd shout no way. But Trump did it, so it must be okay.
The creative director at WGSO had a little something he thought you should know. When Dan picked on his bits, Steve got real gruff. So Steve called Dan a flake, called him liberal dandruff. Steve thinks that his lines are really clever, but when do people ever like him? Never. Liberal Dan's got better lyrics, this is true. Listen and you'll feel like I do. Liberal Dan, his show is great. Liberal Dan, he goes live at 8. Liberal Dan radio, it's the best, 'cause Liberal Dan's head and shoulders above the rest. Steve's about to find out his mistake. In this feud, Dan's Kendrick, Steve is Drake. Dan might not be the world's best singer, but he's got more talent in his little finger. Steve thinks that his lines are really clever, but when do people ever like him? Never. Liberal Dan's got better lyrics, this is true. Listen and you'll feel like I do. Liberal Dan, his show is great. Liberal Dan, he goes live at 8. Liberal Dan radio, it's the best, 'cause Liberal Dan's head and shoulders above the rest.